Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another installment of HLTV Confirmed. I will be your docile host and loudmouth Australian. We have Striker and we have Prof. Banks, unfortunately, could not be with us, so we're just doing the three-man show where I do the majority of the talking. So, hello everybody, how are you doing?
Good. Pretty good.
Fine. Just putting up the Insta story on the HLTV Instagram. Easy life,
Okay,
whatever.
so Prof, you had a holiday, but I think it was different to what most people would consider a holiday because I saw you put up a picture of you guys coming second at a LAN. How does one come second
I'd
at
say
a local LAN?
It's a classic esports vacation where you take time off of your job to do more of essentially what's your job, to watch CS. So I'm just mentally ill, as all of us probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough to say. And Striker, have you been keeping busy the last few days?
Not pretty much. Just pretty much as you. Just I don't really talk about it on the stream, but I still do pretty much the same thing. Watch the Counter-Strike play and then try to draw some conclusions from it.
So, just so everybody's aware, the three of us literally have nothing else in our lives other than Counter-Strike. We've just established that for all the viewers, and hopefully you tuning in also have nothing in your lives other than Counter-Strike. I'd be surprised why you're here listening to us talk.
Yes, that was just what I was about to say.
Okay,
so let's talk about CS then.
Yeah, well, surprisingly, that's where we're going to kick this one off. And we do have Copenhagen Games to talk about here. The first thing I suppose we want to get stuck into here is, do we want to start at the final and work backwards, or do we want to do our biggest surprises? Because that's something that I wouldn't mind talking about.
I mean, we can start with Forza at least, and just like kind of acknowledge that they actually delivered on LAN as well. Because I wasn't sure about that personally, because we saw them have a lot of impressive results online, beating some pretty notable teams over the past even a couple of months. It's been quite a while since they started impressing online and looking like the next big thing coming from that tier 3 kind of team. So for them to show up online is a really good sign going forward. I just I like what I saw.
Jerry was a bit of a beast. Prof, do you wanna, because you always seem to talk about this Jerry character, do you want to give everybody a bit of a rundown on the gentleman in question?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him at the Abu Dhabi event, and that's where they got their first LAN, I don't know, some LAN recognition, I feel like. And I think he's the only guy alongside the coach that actually speaks English, so he's the guy you're going to be talking to. You don't know much about the other guys, but he was, at least at the time, he was the in-game leader. So things like this, the CS scene. One day it's one guy's in-game leading, the other guy, and then it goes back and forth. But if nothing changed, he ended up being the Copenhagen Games MVP, the tournament awarded MVP, and in-game led this side that doesn't have that much experience. So I think with that, he's kind of the guy that we can look to. Maybe this guy has potential to even go farther than this team, even though this team at the moment is doing pretty well. They're keeping in the top 30, 35 for the last, what is it now, 5 months already. So I think it's something to keep an eye on, definitely.
So there's another member of that team, Facecrack. I know I've played with him in FPLC and stuff before. He speaks English, but why does his name ring a bell? I remember watching him either in minors or something with
Didn't he play with Waylander in that Peter team? Or am I just mixing things up?
Yeah, that was the team.
He played, so you even played with him at the Katowice against him, or at least you were at the same tournament at Katowice.
I think we did play against them, yes.
Qualifier. I didn't think you played against them because that was you only had to go through your own group to qualify. I'm not entirely sure you were in the same group, but anyway,
I feel like
you were
I
at
played
the same
against them
tournament
on Mirage or something for some reason. That seems to be in my mind. Maybe I'm just completely wrong here.
I hope I'm not wrong that he actually played
Fluffy
at that
Gangsters,
time as well.
Didn't he play on a team called Fluffy Gang? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Maybe.
I don't remember who was on that. That was a one and done team that only showed up at one minor, I think, finished second, and then nothing happened.
He did play. It was Waylander, Waterfalls, Ubik, Hooch, and Facecrack who played in that Peter team that surprised Titan. And you didn't play against them. They played Titan G2, which was the Polish team at that time, and Flipside.
All right, well, Lucas is getting fired. That's unfortunate for him. We're going to have to get a new producer in here. Striker's video, it's not with us right now, but we'll get him back. Don't worry about that. There shouldn't be too many problems. I think we were talking about my history, which has got nothing to do with the history of now. So we'll skip that. I think that's a sign for us to shut the fuck up and start talking about some more relevant details here. Sprout again, they've made it to a final. We're not really putting too much stock in this team because I guess with the older names like Dennis and Spiddy, it feels like they're yesterday's news, right? But Faven, he seems to be one of the youngsters in this team that is relatively promising. I haven't watched close enough to see if there's anything to really write home about, but I would say that, the reason that I'm bringing these guys up is we have some big German events coming up soon. Obviously, ESL1 Cologne, and then we have the major in Berlin. And with those two things on the horizon, if Big are unable to get themselves in a position to be looking hot for those events, I might be seeing some of these other German players coming into a roster if they want to keep it primarily German to see how they can mix things up. Obviously, there's Keto from Epsilon as well. He seems to have some really good performances and then some really bad performances. So there's some names out there who could potentially be on the radar for Big in the future. Whereas it just in terms of everything else, making it to the grand final, that's not a bad shout.
Yeah, they made it to the grand final here and in Charleroi last week or 2 weeks ago, is it now? When they lost against Vitality, which is also like okay. I mean, this Force game was kind of close. They made it there, decent for them as a team. Kind of, I think, even though they didn't up themselves, at least they followed up to what they did before. Lost a team that currently is ranked higher, but wasn't before. So they were kind of on paper maybe the favorites going against fours, but the Russian team was just better on the day. So it happens. But I think there is some perspective for them as a squad. Like Surson, also the upper of the team, has been putting up some decent numbers, decent games. So he definitely has a future. Still pretty young. Didn't get really a shot in a legit team that can actually contend at as you mentioned, like a ESL Cologne. He didn't play that yet, but maybe when we see him there, we'll see if he can really hold up against the big boys.
I think technically he did play at that event, although it was like the finals of the German league, I think.
Oh yeah, when they put the Meisterschaft as a warm up for the grand final or something.
Last year, I think. But yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
just to fuck with you.
They like to get the home teams out there, or the collegiate stuff.
To be honest, like that's a pretty good idea for a show match. At least there's something on the line that's good for the home viewers, for the audience actually to have a German league finals to be played right before the grand final of a big event. I mean, why not? I like that idea.
Strange how nationalistic everybody seems to get, right? Like it's wild. But all right, so we've covered the grand final that was between Forza and Sprout. Moving down, obviously, Movistar Riders. We had Tricked in there. Look, other than seeing, is it Shiro, the youngster from Gambit Youngsters? He had a really good highlight on Inferno that was like simple-esque. Looking at his stats, he's got some good numbers, but considering, the teams that he's playing against, it's one of those situations where maybe he's a diamond in the rough, somebody to be, picked up and molded later down the track. It's just a blip on the radar. It's nothing that we can really dig our teeth into too much, other than saying, he did some sick stuff. I think, other than that, the one that I wanted to talk about was Singularity. Yeah,
that was pretty rough, wasn't it?
Oh,
yeah. After their little song and dance that went down recently, where Luminosity actually made it first in their group at Pro League, Singularity lost to a team called I had it up here.
Soderbergh and Partners.
Yeah, Soderbergh and Partners, featuring obviously the names that we all know of Frostlev, Nodios, Toft, and then the last two we do actually know, but they were the worst performers in the server, Torben and Dragonfly. So that was when I say worst performers in the server, it's just on this match I'm looking at, which was Sprout versus Soderbergh and Partners. Maybe they weren't always the worst performers. It's just unfortunate for them. That's the game I had up. But yeah, so Singularity, the team who were upset about not getting the Pro League spot, went out in the BYOs, the part where you still have your own computer part of the tournament, and didn't get through to the main playoff stage. So that's a bit of a surprise, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was the last game. It was the game to get into the real Copenhagen Games, the top 8. So kind of rough for them. But in the end, everyone will just remember them. ending the tournament run in the BYC, not even getting to the real tournament, let's say. But yeah, when you look at it like that, like Luminosity topping the group, getting the Pro League final spot, and then them here not even making the like a tier 3 event. Is it a tier? Yeah, it is a tier 3 event. I
Pretty
think
much.
we can say it. So yeah, it is kind of rough for them. Kind of bad luck. Maybe if they worded it a bit better, maybe the karma wouldn't bite them back so much. But who knows? Like other than that, I think we have like Endpoint didn't make it through Chaos. These are like lower tier teams.
Oh yeah, Pronex
Lord
is
of
in.
Wind.
Godsend team, yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't make
I
it
don't think
through.
like. I mean, it is a name when they brought it back. Like, oh, we're Godsend. People kind of expect more, but like,
Yeah.
were they really expected to make it
was
to
still
the
mixed,
event?
that's the
Nah.
point, yeah. It
Nah.
was still mixed, kind of for that one event, and potentially like something more if it worked out. I mean, didn't seem to have worked out, so I don't think this lineup will stick together in the future. But who knows? Maybe they saw something in each other. I have no idea. But it's definitely not a great result, and it's just like how the mighty have fallen, right? Considering they have names like Pronax, Snyder.
Well, that I think is almost as steep of a fall off as where VP are at now with Sax and Bialy. You know, I think you can look at those two and you can be like, fucking hell, like what's happened here? It just feels like it's night and day between back when they were winning the majors and today. Obviously, Pronax went on to win 3 majors. Snyder was just there for the first one. Yeah. And then you had Sax and Bialy obviously winning the Katowice major, right? So, look, they've really fallen off. What a VPS ranked 7th in Poland right now.
Yeah,
like,
that's something. Let me just check it out. Like,
I didn't even see that.
Who is in front of them? Like, could you name off the top of your head six
I could
Polish
probably
teams?
like 4. I could probably
Ago.
Let's.
Ago, Devils 1, Isaac Bors.
It's packed.
Fuck. Yeah, that's 4.
Wait, let me take a look.
They're actually ranked 5th in Poland right now, and one you will not get because I never saw them play. One is called OSU.
Okay.
And they're all, I guess XCOM is also a team that was above them. Like when
they're at the same amount of points, so I'm guessing they're just like some decimal points behind.
Yeah.
Basically.
You almost got all of them. So you only missed like XCOM and OSU. So congrats.
Yeah, you know, try and keep up with the really important scenes of Counter-Strike. So watch it all for some unknown reason. All right, do we have any other takeaways from Copenhagen Games, guys? I feel like there was, Vertigo was in the mix there, right? I think it came up a couple of times.
I didn't see it played at that event, honestly.
Yeah, so if we didn't see it played, maybe we can just reserve our judgment there. All in all, I think when you look at a tournament like this, unless somebody that is a complete unknown comes out and just beasts everybody, or an underdog team comes through and makes it through the grand final, it's kind of business as usual. There's no big names here. There's nothing. The teams are placing where they should. And it doesn't, we're not putting any of the squads who are beating these teams on a pedestal to say they're going to go on and, be a massive threat. Fours is the one that we've just set the example of, maybe look out for them because they seem to be on the rise recently, but soon enough they'll probably end up in the CIS blender and have all their players whipped around to some other fucking teams. But we can...
just closing thoughts. Yeah. I only think like Epsilon kind of underperformed since they were on the rise. They finished 5th to 6th, didn't make it out of the groups as one of the invited teams. That's an underperformance from them. Movistar finished top 4, I guess okay. I mean, they lost one of their players recently. So I don't know. I guess it's okay for like a placing we expect from them. And the only thing we didn't touch on when we were talking about fours is that they actually got one map like forfeit lost because they didn't show up on time.
Yeah, the only match that they lost was basically because of a forfeit loss.
Yeah, but that was in the group stage, not in the grand final like Immortals. So they bounced back, went to the playoffs, beat everyone, and won. And yeah, good job.
I think what we might do, just quickly, I'm going to get Lucas to change the title. Let's just quickly take a look at the world rankings because they've been updated today as the 22nd of April. It is Monday. We may as well just take a look at how they've updated a little bit and talk through that because we're pretty light on content this evening. That not a lot of things have happened in the news since the last show, so we'll have a little gander at this one right here. So anybody curious, HLTV.org. If you don't follow the website, I'd be fucking surprised. But they do a world ranking that gets updated every Monday, and the big ones within the top 10 is Ents and FaZe have changed positions, and I'd say that's based on decay of Ents not having played a whole lot, whereas FaZe have been doing the world tour situation. They also looked pretty good at EPL. Then as you move further down, we had Windigo and G2 go toe-to-toe last night, where G2 came out on top. So that's kind of pretty simple switcheroo right there. G2 also beating the likes of Na'Vi and Fnatic in that group, which we'll talk about that more later. Avantgarde with their victory, they move up. Fury has moved up as well. Valiant's dropped off a little bit. Fours with their victory in Copenhagen Games have bumped all the way up to top 20. And Mouse Sports are now 21st in the world. So it's good to see them making an appearance back close to the top 20. Other than that, what else is wild here? Tricked went up 9 places.
Yeah, I mean, that's mostly because I don't think they had too much played before Copenhagen Games, so that result just gave them a little bit of a boost. Not that surprising.
Also, just look at the points down towards
it's
the end.
like
It's like 66, 66. Yeah, it's like 3 points between 10 places. So probably if you go down lower, there's also a bunch of teams that are just like 1 point away from jumping up like 5 places. So it's not like something you can really like get excited about.
The further
it's like
below
nice.
you get, the less accurate it gets, right? Because it's just literally just a few points difference.
Yeah. Do you guys think, though, looking at, like, because obviously this represents the top 30, do you think this is like light, or like just in terms of Counter-Strike in general, do you think this is like a light top 30? Do you think this is like a pretty competitive top 30? Like, what are your thoughts here? Like, the fact that I see, this is no disrespect to a team like Epsilon, but the fact that I see them coming in at 24th, I don't see them threatening Heroic, you know? Like, I don't see them as a team who could beat Heroic, who are at 18th, and they're sitting there at 24th on a consistent basis. But if I go further down, like, who else we got? Like Devils 1, if they continue on a bit of a trajectory, I put them in like a similar boat as like an Ago, or maybe, probably like around. So I guess I'm answering my own question here, but I'm not. I'm just like curious, because with the scene of Counter-Strike, and obviously we have so much growth, and you look at the top 20, or you even just look at the top 15 of teams, and it feels like, I look at it, and I don't know, it's not underwhelming, but does it feel light? Like, are we missing something? Am I missing something?
I mean, obviously Mouseports aren't in the top like 15 where they probably should be, and we have some big orgs like Cloud9 still being in wherever they are, like 50th in the world. So stuff like that.
We're still in kind of the adjustment period, especially for those two teams like you mentioned, because they basically haven't really played much, or not enough for them to make it anywhere close to where they used to be, with Mouseports obviously being a very different lineup now. Cloud9 will kind of as well, but it's with them it's the case for like every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, or whatever we went up to. But yeah, anytime they actually play a few more events with the same lineup, they'll just move a little bit more up as they get some decent results. So that's when that happens. I think you're going to be a little bit more satisfied with how, especially like the further, like the upper top 15, I guess looks like, because that's missing, especially those two big names.
Yeah, I think it is pretty competitive, right? Like, in terms of, I made a tweet not long ago saying that I thought it was competitive, right? And I do think it is. I like, after watching Windigo again last night, and the group that they were just in, I think that maybe it's just because I have like a really high expectation of what I expect. I see like the levels that are set by the best teams in the world, and then when I watch a team go into a server with good players and a lot of experience, and I watch them play, and I go, this is like underwhelming. Like, they should be doing better than this, right? And not even from an individual standpoint, like just from like a team-based standpoint. Teams that have been together for some time, they go in and it feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like they've actually prepped a lot of stuff. You can see like weaknesses in depth of map pool and all those kind of things happening with teams who have been together for decent periods of time. And then you watch G2, and then G2, they've only added Amanex since the 15th of April, I think it was, that he was officially like on the roster. We had WSG.
April? You mean March?
March, yeah, not April. We had WSG with Body was on the roster, and then they added Amanek in, and it hasn't been a long time that he's been on the roster, and they already feel like it kind of makes sense. I guess it's just a team thing. I guess it's just, maybe too much travel, not enough practice.
Yeah, and it is kind of a weird year in terms of how many big events we had. I mean, I think it's something to do with the blast events that only have 6 teams, so you don't get as much teams at an event, so you can't really see all of them play. And that's why we kind of like the bottom part of the top 30 is teams that didn't really play big events. They just played like Copenhagen Games, that play like Charleroi and stuff like that, because they got the opportunity to play on LAN, while like top teams like Mouse, like they've been a team for 2 months now, still only played the ESL Broly group stage. Like there was nothing else for them to play to actually make up that ground. So it's been weird. There's a lot of talk about oversaturation, too much events and stuff like that, but we didn't really have that many events so far in the year. Like I've been to 2 events from the start of the year. It's not really comparable, but usually I do like one a month. So now it's like 5th month almost, and I did 2 events.
Yeah, that might be playing into it a little bit. Well, we can move forward to DreamHack Open Rio. Click that bad boy. And for those who missed it, Avantgarde did end up winning the final against Furia. I think a couple of takeaways that we could do initially, and I don't know if you guys watched these. I tried to watch them before work started for Pro League. I caught their Sharks game, Furia's Sharks game on Vertigo. And I believe Sharks actually picked that into Furia.
They picked that into Furia.
And we theory crafted, we had a thought of which teams or which names might actually geek it out hardcore. And I think the fact that Furia, they have, they strategically, they had layers, that we don't see from other teams. So it's no surprise that they won, was it 2 maps that they played? They also played Avantgarde in the final, right? They picked it and won at 16-2 or some shit. I remember tuning in
16-4, 16-2 against the Vanguard and Sharks.
I tuned in to watch a couple of rounds, and it felt like Avantgarde had no idea what they were doing. Like they're just like, well, if they're going to pick it, we'll just fucking run around and
this is the
die,
problem. This is the problem with the kind of the timing, because obviously like not a lot of these teams will kind of risk getting a new map in with maybe like a week or 2 of practice on it before an event. So they're just going to risk now playing a couple of maps and just hoping that other teams won't call them out on it. Well, Furia did. And it obviously paid off for them. Well, paid off. I say that. They still lost the final, even though they won Vertigo 16-2 in the end. But obviously, like the actual map pick paid off. So that's kind of the problem that I thought was going to happen. That was kind of obvious. It always happens with these new maps coming in. Always. It doesn't really happen too much, obviously. But even with like back in Cobble and Overpass or whenever the maps change places, it always takes maybe even a couple of months before like we get an actual, like a very good idea of which teams are good on and which teams actually play it, put a lot of time into it, and which teams just risk not playing it and just like leaving it in the map pool without people calling them out on it. So this is kind of what we saw in Rio, I think, with especially in this case. Obviously not in Sharks, who actually picked it, and that didn't work out, did it?
Yeah, I know Valiance, like in the interview, I think you did it, Striker, with Hunter. They said like they're practicing Vertigo, but I don't know how much I can believe that.
Yeah,
they probably are practicing it, but how good are they on it? Like how many practice? Like if they had 5 practice on it, I
only transcribed that one. Well, I actually prepped that one. I didn't even transcribe it or anything. It was just from Luis and Baltics, our new guy. Those two did the interview. But like when I was prepping it and when I saw that that Hunter said that they feel really good on it and they will play it if they get the chance. I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that, man. We'll have to see. And obviously they didn't play it. I'm not sure if they actually got a chance to, or if they got it banned away from them. I'm not entirely sure, because obviously in groups in the first matches they will not be able to play because teams get three vetoes. They even vetoed it against W7M. They vetoed it against Sharks, who were obviously ready to play it, and then or like wanted to play W7M, banned it against them. Yeah, they had a couple of chances to play it for sure. They were willing to leave it against the Vanguard in the semi-final. They left it between that and Dust 2 for the last map, so I guess that was a bit of a risk. So maybe they actually were prepared on it, but obviously we can't know when they actually didn't play it.
Yeah.
Could all be like smokes and mirrors for a little while. Just to touch 100%. On the point that you guys were making here about there's teams who are just going to risk it and play it if it comes into the pool without practicing it a lot. That's how it used to be back in the day for smaller regions, and I can speak from experience here. In Australia, nobody ever wanted to play Overpass and Cobble when they first came out, right? Because like there was no need. Like when you were the best team, like trying to make your map pool bigger and teams not wanting to prac it because they're still trying to get good at fucking Inferno and Dust 2, and you're here trying to like have a deep map pool to play overseas. It was impossible to get practice on that, and I can see it still being kind of impossible now to get practice because if teams are in tournaments that don't have it in or whatever, and they don't want to prioritize like, nah, fuck that shit. I think that's the wrong approach, especially if you are like a team within the realms of tier 2 or tier 3. You may as well play it as much as possible, because even if you you can, you're not going to win yourself fucking tournaments just off of Vertigo alone. But if you can become a Vertigo specialist, and any top teams want to play you against in a tournament where you get a chance, and you're better than they are on it, then you can get an upset victory, right? And that's how you kind of put yourself on the map. So I think it's important for people to look at that. Unless their permaban has always been Cache, and now they're just going to permaban Vertigo in place of that, then otherwise people should really be looking at trying to explore it, especially if you're not already guaranteed a position within that top 15. It's something that they should be looking at. A couple of other notes here. This is one that I found quite curious. I want to get your guys' take on it. Ego pulled out of the event. They were scheduled to be there. They pulled out 2 days before the event started, which to me, look, if you know that somebody has a health issue, you probably, because this is the thing, it was like Groovy with an ear infection, right? Apparently, that's what was reported according to cybersport.pl. Now, look, I'm not saying that's bullshit, and I'm not taking light of any health issues here. It's definitely possible that Groovy could have had a ear infection. That could be the case. But to pull out and leave a TO hanging in that kind of fucking mess, if you pulled out and you're going to a European event, that's fine, right? Because just get on the phone to one of a million different European teams and bring them in, and they could probably be of equal skill or maybe a little bit less. But what happened here at Rio is they pulled out 2 days before. The TO is stuck with a fucking shit decision. Like there's no good option here. So they get another Brazilian team because it is home crowd, it is Rio. But this Brazilian team, they go in, they get 16-0'd. They win a total of, I think it was like 9. I think the total of rounds was fucking 17 rounds over 3 maps. Like, they brought in a name here and it's fucked the groups. Like, you see how that's worked. Ago was the second best team in their group, and then with them not being there, that group is just completely dog shit. And unfortunately, then you get like a stacked bracket for the semis. It's fucking Furia versus Sharks. No disrespect to Sharks, but I wouldn't put them as good as Ago. And then you have yourself a situation where it was always going to be Furia in the ground. Yeah, and that kind of just sucked, man. I was a little bit disappointed to see that. I hope that there's no, they haven't just pulled out last minute out of bad faith. Ego don't strike me as that kind of organization. Every time I see them, very professional. To have a big staffing there, it just really sucks for DreamHack, especially the DreamHack Opens, which just keep getting fucked over. Like, people will just schedule over the top of their stuff all the time. They don't give it. DreamHack are one of the very few TOs who announce all of their events in advance, right? And that is so teams of this caliber can prioritize it. And then other TOs come on in and they're just like, well, fuck these guys, man. Like, it's just an open. Just schedule over the top of it every single time. It's just rough.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, Valiant's actually lost to Sharks, so I guess fair play in that.
The best of one?
Yes. Yeah, it was the winner's match. Okay. So it was the best one. So yeah, sure, like, take that with a grain of salt. But just touching back on the issue that you mentioned, it's just kind of the drawback of the free circuit, in that there's not really a fix for it at the moment, just because obviously there are different tiers of tournaments and different tiers of teams, and they will have different rule sets. Obviously, we see Rio having Vertigo in the map pool, but the actual top teams will not play it until like 3 weeks or several weeks from now, after Sydney. So whenever the second group stage of Pro League happens, I think should be the first time we see the top teams play it. And so obviously that puts a lot of these teams in a weird scenario where they can't really practice against like maybe half of their practice opponents or their usual practice opponents, because even though they're maybe like top 20, top 25, they will play against the top 10 team in a practice easily, or even a higher team like that, if they get a chance, especially if they're in Europe, because they just play. There's just so many teams that are worth practicing against for even for the top 10 teams, that they just play against each other all the time. But now half of them don't even want to play it because they won't play it until like a month later. So that's just the problem that I don't see a fix for, given the kind of circuit that we have in CSGO, where there's a lot of different organizers, a lot of different rule sets, a lot of different tiers of tournaments, and a lot of different tiers of teams.
Yeah, it's been a very rough transition, as Sponge mentioned earlier, from this Vertigo cache thing, because like qualifiers for DreamHack events have been using Vertigo for like 2 3 weeks already, and
Yeah.
so like low tier teams aren't really even playing cache since it doesn't make any sense. But some tournaments still have cache in, like even this team that I coached for the local LAN last week, we wanted to play cache, but no one is practicing cache. No one's practicing cache for like 2 weeks, so it doesn't make sense to play it. And then you have a dead map still being there. I don't know what it's like on the like the top tier, but I still think like a lot of teams already don't play cache. I guess someone like Big, let's say, that is a good cache team and they want to play it in Sydney. How many realistic teams, like good teams, can they find to play that map? Like
Probably not many.
probably not many. Like even the ones that are decent on the map probably know enough to like, okay, we can practice like once a week just to like remember stuff. But no one has it as one of their better maps, so like whatever, we'll just ban it. I think like there wasn't a real great solution to it. Like the best way to do map changes for me is just do it right after a major, but at the same time Valve needs time to get those maps into a decent position for them to be playable. And when the majors are on, they obviously have work around the majors. And as we know, they have 3.5 employees, so doing two things at the same time is impossible. So then we're stuck with this that we have, just a kind of a mess overall.
Valve are like a Montessori school. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but for
Yeah,
those
I
of
think
you
you
who,
are.
yeah, it's for those who aren't aware. It's like the school that you go to and you just do whatever the fuck you want. Like there's no classes or anything. If you want to learn, like the teacher will help you learn or some shit. It's kind of Valve's approach to Counter Strike. It's like yeah, we might fix that bug today. But no, I think the thing with this whole map situation can segue us into talking. Unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about with DreamHack, Rio, did you guys notice anything on social media or any games you saw? Any little highlights you want to talk about?
I think
Um,
Avantgarde did a good job. Like I caught the like the last few rounds of the Fury Avantgarde thing, and Fury is actually leading 13-7 on train, and it looked like okay they're gonna win. The crowd was going wild, and then they just didn't. Like some crazy clutches by Avantgarde on the T side, like last minute kills. The guy's just killing the diffuser, gets him down to 1 HP. Jame comes in with op, kills him. The bomb goes down with like 1 second left, and the comeback happens. So good shit for them. But still, Fury also showed, I think, a decent level. Valiant's kind of underwhelming, but at the same time, I think it's just their position. The interview we did with Hunter kind of covers that as well, that they don't really have a great calling system because Hunter is kind of calling, but not really. Online, it's their coach that is doing a lot of the work. So then on land, he can't do it. So that part is kind of a mess, and they're like in a mini phase situation, like where Hunter doesn't really want to call, and they need someone to call, but they don't know who it's going to be. So yeah, I think their land stuff will probably suffer for until they figure that out.
it's gonna be rough to figure out though, like because apparently Nexa doesn't really want to do it. So, and he probably I guess would have been the person to look to, given that he had that spell with Renegades where he was supposed to call. He was calling before, for some other teams. So he probably would have been the only person to look to. But obviously that's not really
Yeah.
the case, or it would have happened
I mean,
by now.
I understand why someone wouldn't want to call
Sure.
in like in the
I can
at the
100%.
same time. Yeah, people say, oh, everyone wants like a good in-game leader. So if you specialize in in-game leading, then you'll have a lot of offers. But the thing is, like, if you do that, if you try to in-game lead, your stats go down, and then the team doesn't perform well. And it doesn't have to be your calls. It can be just like, oh, my star player doesn't want to play CS anymore, so he's playing like 20 hours of CS and 50 of Apex Legends, and now he's shit, and now we're losing. Now everyone's saying, oh, this guy can't really in-game lead well. So your career is just dependent on 4 other guys. That's not the best way, especially at the level Valiants are. It's not like these guys are the biggest professionals. So, I mean, no disrespect, but they just simply we see even like the top 3 teams, what like the Rob situation with LMBT, like that's a classic one. Like, why are you not playing? Why weren't you playing 150 hours when I was a coach? Now when I'm fired. Now you're playing. Now your motivation's back up. Thank you very much. It's like
It's
so.
just It's about getting everybody, like, it's the most simple thing, right? Like, to say, it's the most simple thing to say from an outside perspective, but it's just about getting everybody on that same page and understanding the system and what they're expected to put in, right? The thing with esports and Counter-Strike is that it's still a new venture. Like, that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, considering I've been doing this now for more than 50% of my life. But it's still a new venture in terms of how to approach it. And when you're dealing with young people who have never worked a proper job before in their lives and getting them to prioritize things correctly, it's almost a fucking impossibility. And as much as like it would be easy to have mentors and say like, oh, you know, that's why you have experienced players or coaches or people from the older generation, you definitely can offer advice. But the thing is, and I'm sure we all know, and everybody in chat and pretty much every human that's ever existed, our parents told us so many things, right? They told us things. And that's because they've experienced all the bullshit and they already know how everything happens, right? You know, we're sitting there, we're the fucking 16-year-olds, like we just broke up with our first girlfriend or some bullshit, or, you know, they're telling us to eat our fruit and vegetables and they're saying, oh, you know, everything's going to be fine, just do this. We don't listen because we need to learn ourselves and we need to get scorned by the situation. So Counter-Strike's no different in that regard. People will eventually get there the hard way. But this is a tangent. Did anyone read that Kusta interview?
You mean the
Yes.
article that Alexei did? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Was,
there's some fucking cuck level responses, bro. When I was reading that shit.
Yeah. When you mentioned that, well, when I read it, I thought it made Kusta look like a whiny bitch, honestly.
100%.
The problem is, like, I can 100% see how, like, all of that is true, all of what he said is true, just because of that, like, remembering that time, and obviously that time being when Simple was there. At that time, Simple wasn't really being the most welcoming, I guess I would say. At that time, he was still pretty toxic from what we heard from even Hiko, like within the team, that Simple wasn't really behaving the right way and stuff like that was really missing. So I can understand Kusta's situation, but the responses really did make him look pretty bad, honestly.
I don't know if he realizes the way that he's like replied to those things, but it's just made him sound like, well, I knew better because I'm a new player. That's like kind of how it sounded to me. And like reading that, like as much as Kusta is a much better Counter-Strike player than me, and he's a much better Counter-Strike player than I ever was. That is not up for debate here. It's just when you look at the world through those eyes, like the way that I perceived his answers to those questions. When you play Counter-Strike, right? The one of the things which we talk about in any venture in life, I would say, is about like doing it with confidence. But the way that he's written these things, it's like I've read it that it's a person who like
there's a lot of insecurity in that, I think.
Yeah,
like a lot. I think that
I don't even know how we
just
got
like
to this
bringing
point.
back.
Fuck.
Yeah. It was a rough interview. Not sure that. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Honestly, this is not something that we usually see. Even like when people are frustrated with whatever team they were on, and kind of comment on it afterwards, you don't see this amount of.
Can you give me some examples, like what exactly you're referring to? Because like my perception is kind of like how I perceived the article. I feel like is kind of different than what you did.
Yeah, let me have a quick little read through here.
Let's just
my view on it was just he was someone that came into like the Liquid situation and had his idea about like what he wants to do, but then people told him to do something else, and then he just, as players do, he didn't learn by himself, but he was told what to do, and then he was just doing the things without really knowing why he's doing it or like how he could actually do it and use his like potential and his pluses as a player. So he was just like shoehorned into a role of being like, I don't know, who could I compare? Like like a Smith's Opper, and he obviously isn't that. Like he's someone that just exploded very quickly, being like a player that was set up and had like a lower team revolve around him, and then he moved into a situation where he was probably the third or fourth player on a squad who needed to do whatever everyone else told him to do, and then the confidence just like
I can
disappeared.
Like I said, like I understand all of what he said, and I could even see how all of it is true, and that he was just like whatever. The thing is, like we also heard about JB James and about like what kind of coach he is from back at that time, that it was more like an emotional coach rather than like a strategist or like helping people improve individually, like in game. And obviously he tried to do that part as well, but we don't know like to what extent he was good at it. We assume that he probably wasn't based on what we heard. So that's something that kind of sways me to kind of feel for Kusta as well, because he was probably put into a pretty shitty situation with Simple like probably telling him not to op because he's shit at it, and then GB James trying to like steer him like a more like in an uncomfortable role. So everything, all that I can understand, but if I didn't know all the context and didn't remember like what was happening at that time, I probably wouldn't have taken it that way. Because just to quote one part, right? I played a couple of blah 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 blah. He would watch my. This is about GB James. He would watch my demos and tell me what I was doing right and wrong. But I think for young players trying to break through, it's hard to tell them something so concrete. But I mean, whenever you hear about the young players coming into a team, you always hear about like the veterans trying to teach them the right ways and the right way how to play. Trying to get that experience on there a little bit faster than they would do it on their own. So that's the problem that I had with it. That he just had I think a bit of a bad approach to the situation, and he was a little bit insecure about himself, and just not confident in his own play and not confident in his own opinions, which he admits as well. To be fair to him, he admitted that was like as a young player at that time, that was probably a bad idea to kind of listen to it and then just follow through all the time, rather than kind of rebel against it and try to get them to see his own view and his own play style. So like I said, I can see what kind of a problem he had with it. It's just like a lot of these answers are pretty, yeah, I don't know what to call it, honestly.
But I don't know. We've just lost it all again.
Yes.
All right.
So how does one get fired twice in one episode?
He's showing how.
This is how.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use every time the stream crashes as an opportunity just to hard cut whatever we were talking about and move on to the next topic, because like fuck it. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is going to be talking about ESL groups B and C, which went down over the last 6 days. Monday is the day off before we kick off Group D. Now let's do a quick little summary, and then we'll cherry pick some topics, and then we'll I think, let me just have a look. What do we have coming up after this? We had what we should do is grab this, and then we'll talk about the whole situation with the fucking format, because I know there's a lot of discussion around that. Yeah. So to begin, we had Group B.
I'll just go through the actual results. Group B, that's one of the groups where the tiebreakers happened. FaZe topped it without any issues, didn't lose any maps, so they obviously went right to the finals. The rest basically went 1-2. Beat between one amongst each other. Heroic actually.
I can still talk, so it's fine.
We can still talk, right?
We're back again, yeah. All right. This is a really good day of technical difficulties. I think, finally all the goodwill that we've been getting with good internet, Wi-Fi that I've had, and the fact that we could do all these bits and pieces working usually. Now it's just decided to fuck up. So what you get to look at Prof's face while everyone else talks.
I mean, not the worst face to look at. Imagine if you had mine there for like the next 5 minutes or whatever.
Viking striker.
But yeah, we're not going to hard cut off of this topic. We're sticking with this topic, and we're talking about Group B of Pro League. Go.
Let me just run through it again, right? FaZe first, without any question, 3-0, and then the rest basically won against each other and lost to FaZe. Fortunately for Heroic, they took a map off FaZe, because amongst them, they also had the same amount of maps won. So the second, I think, tiebreaker it is, didn't really work out, so they had to go to the third to get Heroic on top of that three-way tie. And then Devils 1 ended up third, because the tie-breaking situation, whenever you get one team above the rest, the tiebreakers just repeat. Basically, you start from the top again, which is head-to-head matches, in which Devils 1 won against an IP. So they basically eliminated an IP that way, which obviously sucks. In Group C, G2 surprisingly won against both Navi and Fnatic. Navi ended up second. Fnatic ended up third. That group was actually even decided before the last day began, with G2 first and Wendigo last. The remaining two matches didn't really even matter, because Navi Fnatic would have been second and third anyway. And in the The Americas Liquid topped Group B pretty unsurprisingly. Ghost second, Complexity third. I guess we expected those two teams to go second or third, depending on the results amongst them, basically. And Lazarus to be last, very, very expectable. And Group C, Luminos, that was another interesting one where the tiebreakers had to come through. That was on map difference, if I'm not mistaken, this time, not on.
No. Wait, was it?
Amongst each other, it was on map difference, I'm pretty sure.
Because Luminosity beat MIBR, right? And MIBR beat Cloud9, and Cloud9 beat Luminosity.
Yeah, exactly. But then map difference between in those series, right? And I think Luminosity had an extra one.
Yeah.
Compared to the other two teams, so that's why they came out on top. MIBR second, Cloud9 third, with Envy last again. Outside of Luminosity placing first, I think fairly expected for Envy to be last and Cloud9 probably be somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised if Envy had stolen away that third slot, if we'd seen that go down in that fashion. Just because this Cloud9 roster is very new together with the addition of Cage of B coming in. But yeah, I think with the North America side of things, businesses you'd expect, other than, like you mentioned, Luminosity coming through first. And I just want to mention again, there was a bit of complaint when Luminosity were put in that position after Rogue dismantled themselves. Nico and old mate MSL went, but Luminosity coming in and topping the group. So look, I'm not saying that I think that they're consistently a better team than MIBR, but here they've proved it, and they're already straight through to the finals in France. So I think we can kind of leave North America, because in terms of the disparity in these groups and other contenders, it's pretty light on, and they have to come back and compete still in the future. But I think we can maybe extrapolate a little bit more from the European groups. So if we take a look at Group B with FaZe, Heroic, Devils 1, and NIP, obviously NIP coming through in the last position there. A lot of people go, oh, but how does this work? Their round difference is better. Well, it's all those different tiebreaker scenarios that you have to put into account here. That in the ESL rulebook, Mihal League Ops from ESL, he's tweeted that out, and you can see how it all goes. So head-to-head is the first one, and then down we go. But the type of Counter-Strike that I saw is probably what I want to talk about. And I think Heroic, they looked pretty good, considering Peacemaker wasn't there behind them to be the coach. And this is BlameF's first LAN with the team as the in-game leader, with Starvin on board, who is 17 now, just for everybody playing at home. But I think considering those things, Freiburg had a very good group. Like, he played very well. Esatag and Mertz, they were doing their job. So all in all, that Heroic seems like they've now got 5 players who can contribute on the scoreboard quite well. I don't know what your guys' take was on Heroic in that group.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting that I think they lost in every series they lost their map pick, and then they won like the opponent's map pick, and then kind of like struggled, but managed to make it all kind of competitive overall. So good for them. I think even if they went out in last place, which was pretty close to be happening,
they're robbed off. Like, they could have lost that overtime.
It was an overtime.
It was an overtime that they lost to Devils 1, which was like the one decided that where it could have literally gone any way imaginable between that second and fourth place. Either team could have gone fourth, and either team, well, not one Devils won the first map. I think that was out of the question, but that series as a whole, it could have just turned everything on its head, and then it was decided in overtime. The problem is Devils won after winning that first map. They didn't really have anything to play for. I think actually even before that, I might be mistaken on that. I'm trying to remember.
They only needed to win the first map. That's all they needed to guarantee themselves a place in the playoffs.
So once they did that, they obviously didn't really care about what the result was.
I don't know. You could say that the same thing about last night's game between Wendigo and G2, but both teams still gave us a 3-map affair that took me until 12:30 a.m. in the morning, right?
But I mean, this was the same. They went really, really close up against each other. It was like 16-13 on the second, and then overtime on Nuke.
Well, let's actually fuck it. Let's just get straight stuck into this, because this is the conversation that's been going around. It's been the one on Twitter lately. Obviously, we have people who take issue with the Blast format, and I guess people are taking issue with the Pro League format being round robin groups. Now, I want to bring this up. I've said it multiple times. I just want to make everybody aware. This is the first thing that wants to come out of my mouth. WESA, the representation for the players in WESA, as far as I've been led to believe from trustworthy sources of mine, have told me that and that they said I could publicly say this, that WESA voted to have, instead of GSL, 4 teams, to have it as round robin. So that's coming from whichever players are involved in that. I got no fucking idea who it is. Wanted round robin groups over GSL. And there's a couple of reasons which I can argue for why I think the round robin groups in this sense is better than having the GSL. GSL, if you lose your first best of 3, you have no way of going through the group in the number 1 position. But if you lose your first best of 3 in the round robin group, you can still go through in first. So maybe that's a reason as to why the players wanted this. But the talk we need to get to here is about the format itself. Now, people don't like the format, and Peter from HLTV.org was very vocal about this on Twitter, because your fate can be decided by somebody else. I'm not going to sit here and argue. I'm not going to sit here and argue against that, because there's no point. There's no point arguing against that. That is true. But what I'm going to present and get your guys' opinions on here is the fact that if every single tournament in Counter-Strike ran the exact same format, what the fuck is the point of watching all the different tournaments if we just have the same format in everything? It's all the same all year round. We may as well just have it run by one company in one circuit. Just go fucking League of Legends or Overwatch, right? There's literally no reason why we can't have round robin groups like we are right now. I don't see the problem. I do not see the problem at all. If we have a league, which is what it is, pro league, we want to have something which kind of is a representation of a league. Now, ideally, in my mind, I would love this to run over a course of weeks where everybody played everybody like we did before. We had one pro league season we got away with in scheduling where it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week for like 8 weeks. It was fucking sick. I had routine. The players could be at home more. They just had to go in and play their games. Everything was, I thought it was great. I loved it. 3 nights a week, bang, 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 games on, sounded good. But we can't do that because of the scheduling. It's impossible to do that because of the scheduling. There's no room in the calendar to have that as a possibility, especially on LAN. So now we've given the best of, we've gone, okay, well, we'll meet you halfway. We'll bring it to LAN. Brought it to LAN. Now all the teams come on in. They play against each other. They voted, as far as I'm aware, they voted to have it as to have it as round robin as opposed to GSO. And now we have a format which is different. That's all it is. It's just different. And I think that if you're NIP and if you lose to Devils 1 and you come last place in your group, that's on fucking you. That's not on the format, right? I understand the qualm, the issue, the people being like, oh, well, if people might throw for this, they might throw for that. First of all, as an ex-professional Counter-Strike player, competitive integrity is something that I held very highly. Now, I can't attest to every other competitive player in the scene. We know that people have thrown matches in the past. We know that people in certain regions of Counter-Strike now are rumored to be throwing matches in present day for gambling. But I don't think that people, like, and this is the naivety. Got to learn to speak. Got to learn to speak here. But oh shit, I've just opened up a shitload of windows. What's happened here? All right, hold up, guys. My computer is not
just
liking
a chat
right
bar, chill, everybody.
Okay, just opened a bazillion quick access windows because I use spacebar as my mic key. But anyway, point here that I'm trying to make is I don't think that just because the group situation isn't ideal to have a clear-cut winner in certain circumstances, we have to come down to head-to-head, we have to come down to all these things that the community is not used to, that it's necessarily bad. Do I think that having a 16-team double elimination bracket would be a million times better? Yes. Do we have the time capabilities for all of those things? No. So I don't know. Do you guys see a problem with this format? Like, other than the clear idea that there are better formats, right, that exist. But that's also like saying, that's like the Kane article that he fucking wrote after the major and said, let's make a major that's like this. Not even working with any of the confines that we have to work with here. This is the thing that people don't realize. Like, people talk shit about the blast format, or they talk shit about this round robin group situation. They don't understand any of the back end stuff. Like, these people are talking about shit they don't understand. They just physically don't. They're not at the events. They don't understand what it is to put on a product. They don't understand what the sponsor obligations are. There's people just fucking talking shit about stuff. And fundamentally speaking, yes, I'll agree that there are better formats than round robin groups. But I don't see a problem with one tournament, ESL Pro League, doing round robin groups for a season that's drawn out. Fucking jump in.
Look, I agree with what you said regarding like why this is good for the organizer, or even for the teams, because obviously this is more exposure. They play more games. Even we get, like, there's one pretty clear advantage I'm going to call it an advantage of round robin, which is that you see everybody play everybody at least within the same group, right? Which doesn't necessarily happen in GSL. Well, doesn't happen in GSL, and doesn't happen in Swiss. Not everybody plays everybody, but obviously that's a one massive group basically. So that's one advantage. You actually see all of the matchups possible, which I kind of like. Because it gives us matchups that we haven't seen before and stuff like that. But yeah, the drawbacks of it is something that I'm not a fan of. You outlined all of it. I 100% agree. The one thing I'm gonna counter with is that I don't like these types of formats at like the biggest events of the year, right? Obviously, we don't have it at the majors. We now have the Swiss, which I believe to be the best format, at least the one that we saw in Katowice. So the majors, I'm glad that they're veering away from completely from GSL and round robin. I'm just not a particular fan of a big tournament like Pro League, which is basically the second biggest thing after the majors that exists in this landscape. So for that to have the least effective format I'm not a big fan of. But I understand why the organizers do it. I understand why. I even understand to a certain degree why the teams want it. You outlined those arguments as well. So I did something that I know we have to live with. I agree that I like that we have like different formats every now and again, just because it makes things a little bit more exciting, especially when it's like best of ones. It's just insane some of these results that come through. With best of three, Adam, I'm not sure about that too much, because then we see things like this happen.
Yeah. Where to start? I think the thing you said about having different formats, both of you actually, like, I agree with that. But at the same time, we can have different formats, but formats that are better and formats that are worse. Like, we don't have to have round robin to have different formats. We have GSL, we can have Swiss, we can have maybe round robin, but in a different kind of a setting where a different number of teams go into playoffs at different, like maybe some go into the upper bracket, some go into the lower. So then every match will more likely have a meaning. And in a way, it seemed like this like if we go back to two shows, I was a guy that thought that this format would work out quite well. But like in, I don't know, like 2 or 3 out of the 6 groups, we had some bad issues with them. But at the same time, because of the limitations of time and like how many matches can be played and having people fly in and play on LAN, like I can't really think of a better format. Therefore, I can say that this format shouldn't be held. Like, I didn't really put in like 8 hours of time trying to figure out the format, but just like quickly thinking about it, I can't really think about something that would instantly be an upgrade to this, and to have like all of the pluses, or like at least 80% of the pluses, and not have any like major drawbacks. Because if you just put GSL, you'd have a lot less games and it wouldn't be that exciting to actually watch it from my perspective. Like, you win two matches, you're first in the groups, then you play one more match, you're like second, third. As I said before, we had that at the Epicenter event, and it was pretty weird to have an event like that, just like play 2 matches, you're through. So all in all, yeah, I think it's pretty fucked up to have like someone that is already through playing a match, like playing a map even, that doesn't mean anything to them and means everything to you. You're not even involved in the match, and your fate is decided on that. It's kind of bad, but I don't know. At the moment, I don't have like a better idea. And
Yeah.
in the end, something I wanted to kind of, if we don't have much to touch on this more, like, is actually the ESL Pro League format better than the ECS format? Like, now that we saw both of them play out. And just 2 more things, quick things. I saw someone in the chat saying like the Group C was very unfair, but that was because the seedings were determined like at the beginning of the year or something, or like, I don't know, after the major, and then it took a month and a half for them to announce it.
Yeah.
And to schedule everything, and you had to do it a lot before, just because you have to schedule all of the teams coming in, the flights and all of that. So yeah, it was kind of unfair, but if you go back to that point, the groups were absolutely fine. And yeah, the Antelope guy subscribed for the 2nd month in a row, so shout out to him.
Just something else to note. Just something else to note with that, with the groups and stuff being done in those lines. There's no way that if you look at the 16 teams involved in European EPL, that you would consider them the 16 best teams in Europe, right? I could go through here and very quickly pluck off 3 names without even fucking blinking, and then from there you could add in, like, obviously we're missing Ents, Vitality in here would be nice. I think that there's other names that could go in here than some teams, like having 2 teams in this tournament called X Space Soldiers and X3D Max that are basically dead teams. It's just having those here. That's just because of the relegation system, how last season worked into this. Assumably they'll filter down, losing their matches if everything goes to plan. We can talk about relegation in a second, but I want to try and decompile this a little bit more. So for those people playing at home who didn't quite understand it, in Group B, FaZe came through, they beat everybody. FaZe did their job. They beat everyone, right? NIP lost to Devils 1, right? The only game that NIP won was against Heroic, if I think that's right.
Yeah,
should be. Yeah. Devils 1 beat NIP, right? Heroic beat Devils 1. Yeah. But the thing that people are taking issue with here is the fact that Devils 1 were playing a best of 3 where they only had to win 1 map. Now, if you heard that and you went, oh, fuck, that means after they won that first map, probably wouldn't try. Have a look at the closeness of those fucking games. Because I'm sitting there watching these games unfold. And to me, Devils 1 have everything to play for, regardless of how that game goes down. Because this is for them an opportunity to make a mark. They won the first map 16-14. They lost the following 16-13 and then 22-18. At no point, right, would I consider that Devils 1 gave up. Now, you can speculate that they could give up. That's perfectly fine. But in this situation, if you're an NIP fan and you're mad because you go, oh, fuck, the format is so shit, what you should be mad at is the fact that NIP lost to Devils 1. Because if NIP beat Devils 1, you would never be in this position. So, sure, if it was more malicious, let's say that this group was filled with, 4 teams within the top 10 in the world. If that was what happened and you were playing in the final match and you were already guaranteed, and by losing your game, let's just say, for example, this is obviously never going to happen, but let's just use this as an example. Let's just say it was Astralis, fucking Ents, Vitality, and Windigo, right? And let's say Astralis, they were in a position that NIP was in, and Devils 1 are fucking Ents, and Ents know that they can't beat Astralis. But so by winning 1 map and then losing the following 2 or losing the series, means Astralis can't make it to the finals. Would I be incentivized to make sure that my biggest threat wouldn't be at the finals? Definitely. But at the same time, if Astralis lost to fucking Windigo and Vitality, right, and they lost to one of Windigo, one of Vitality, and put themselves in that position, that's their own fault for losing those games, right? This is just this format, and this is just the way it works. I'm not arguing that it's better than other formats. I'm not. I'm just saying that this is the way it is. And you've gone into this tournament knowing the format the way it is. So at what point can you blame the format if you're a player? You can't. You can only blame yourself for losing the games, right? And that is what you're here to do. You're here to win the game. So for me, I personally, and I agree with you, there are other formats we can have that aren't necessarily round robin. But this is what we have. This is something that has been, and someone made a comment in chat saying this is why you should never let players, make decisions on things. You definitely should never let players make decisions on things to do with formats. Because I've said this once, I'll say it another fucking million times. I was a player. I would want as many opportunities to fuck up, to lose, to make mistakes, to have a bad day, to miss my shot, and still have an opportunity to come back and qualify. I want as many of those as possible as a player. I don't want a cutthroat format. This is why, for me, if we just said, let's get the 16 best teams in the world, seed them 1 to 16, and put them in a 16-team single elimination bracket, people are like, oh, this is shit. Not flying halfway across the world to play 1 best of 3 and lose. How about you fly halfway across the world to play 1 best of 3 to potentially beat a team seated higher than you and continue through the tournament and prove your worth, right? Run a fucking gauntlet. Have a cutthroat tournament. Be prepared for that 1 best of 3 that you know that you're playing. Give it 110%. And then if you win, you go on. We have so many formats out there that are cushy. I think that Swiss is fucking cushy. I like it. I really like it. I like the way that ESL were able to do it for the last major. I like the way that the balance of best of 3s to best of 1s. I think it's great that it's a gateway. But I also think that best of 1s have a place. Do I think the best of 1s show the full depth of a team compared to a team who can win on a single map because they have 2 maps in their map pool? No, I don't. But that's why not every format, not every tournament can have the major format. It's impossible. That's not the case. And I don't think that we would even say that the major format is the most optimal that it can be right now, but working in the confines of Valve. ESL have their own format. Faceit have their own format. Everyone has their own formats. It's just about knowing that it's different. It's just different, and knowing what you're going into playing against. And I think that needs to be something that people pay more attention to, right? Instead of like villainizing it and demonizing it, let's just fucking go with it. Unless it's really dog shit, unless it really takes away from competitive integrity, which I don't think this does, then let's just fucking just deal with one tournament the way that is. Guess what? In a week's time, there's fucking IEM Sydney. You'll get a better tournament format there. In a couple weeks' time after that, I'm sure there'll be I'm sure later this year we'll get another Star Series event where it's best of 3 Swiss the whole time. You don't get better than that, but the best teams don't rock up to that event, do they? So we've found ourselves in a position where just shut the fuck up and deal with the format you get, you cunts.
Nothing to add on
Classic.
that.
Classic end. So what do you think about the ECS versus EPL so far? Like, I feel like with ESL putting on a LAN in 2 regions, like 2 simultaneous LANs, having everyone fly there, obviously higher cost than what ECS has. Of course, like ECS didn't have maybe the best teams in the first cups, but I feel like the ECS product is potentially even more entertaining than the EPL one, even though this is on LAN. Is this just my take on it from the past like week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, I actually think in terms of like putting the two side by side, the excitement factor, the excitement curve for the ECS format is better than that for the Pro League format. The excitement curve for Pro League doesn't exist, right? Because you could be qualified after day 2, and then day 3, like we saw yesterday for Group C, means nothing. Like it literally meant nothing other than the seeding for Navi and Fnatic. So the excitement curve for the ECS tournament is much better. It ramps up, right? It culminates. So I think it's a much better format. I think that, but what they're doing, the only thing hurting ECS is the fact that good teams have skipped their qualifiers, and now it's likely that their finals won't have the best teams that it deserves, because their change that they made was to accommodate teams not wanting to play long seasons. Well, they did that, and then certain teams just didn't fucking play. So ECS unfortunately got scorned by doing the right thing, which really sucks.
They definitely lost out in the league battle between ESL and ECS. ESL got a massive part of the pie because like literally everybody part of that league actually plays. Gets to play 3 series, while ECS didn't really get that, did they? Also, it's online, which obviously makes them lose a lot of, not lose, but just not get the same viewership that ESL gets as well. It's it's definitely a rough look for ECS, but I don't blame the format. I just blame how it worked out compared to ESL, basically. That's the problem with like there being 2 leagues going on at the same time, basically.
Well, they never had problems before. There was usually more overlap with the ECS and EPL with us playing, having multiple broadcasts going on in the same evening, like actually overlapping with each other in certain occasions. And there wasn't problems with that before. It's just there's only so many days in a week. There's only so many hours in a fucking day. So it's always going to find ourselves in these situations where people are picking and choosing what they actually want to compete in. And unfortunately, I think that, by prioritizing certain events, or the fact that maybe the player break's getting cut into a little bit by the next major cycle, it's making people be a little bit more hesitant. They're taking bigger breaks. Like Navi now they get to start their break. They just finished their fucking world tour, right? This is where their break starts. That's why they're not doing Sydney. That's why they're not doing Dallas. Their focus, at least from the outside looking in, is going to be on winning that Berlin major, right? So they're going to ramp up to that accordingly, how they see fit, and they're giving their players a break period now to obviously relax and then get stuck back into things. Unfortunately for them, by not coming first in their group, it means they're going to have to come back to Leicester in a couple of weeks' time to play again. Probably not something they would have anticipated. But yeah, I think that if we're just comparing those two, I think ECS as well has had more viewers. I was having a look at some stats today, but that makes sense. When you have finals going on, you have a final, it feels final. That's the way you can also market it. You can sell it from that perspective. So from that way, it's more, like I said, the excitement curve is definitely higher on the ECS one, or it's in the right place. We actually peak at the right time.
And there's also like they try to do 2 different things with the ESL having like sharp start times on their matches. Like they don't have the classic like this match ends, then they have the next one coming in, because they want to kind of have a schedule in advance that like fans of NIP can book and like, okay, 18, I don't know, whatever, then NIP is playing, so they know when they want to tune in. While ECS has the more old school, you just play as fast as you can. So I think that is something more suited to the classic esports audience, at least. So people just like to hang around, and then the viewership kind of rises as the tournament goes on. But yeah, we'll see how it develops later on. I think maybe ECS should have had a non-exclusive exclusive contract like Blast has, and then kind of tie in some teams to actually show up at the first few cups, and then everything would be looking much better. But yeah, they got
thing is, like, I thought they had that. Like, I thought like a big thing with ECS, like when it initially came around, was like the rev share that like teams were meant to be getting and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that they had that underlying thing going on there, but obviously not. It's been quite the hiatus between their second week, right, and their third. I'm not sure.
Third and fourth. Yeah, there's quite a long break.
Yeah, so we're still some time away for. Well, I think it starts next week when Sydney's on. Maybe I'm wrong. Or is it this week?
Week 3. You're right. Yeah.
So just before week. 2 and 3, just before Sydney starts.
Yeah. So
we could actually touch on that. We didn't put that in the schedule for the topics, but
we've looked at
that's actually before Sydney.
We've looked at those teams. Yeah, we may as well bring that one up if we can. We have looked at those teams and spoken about it, and this can kind of add a bit of context to that, in the sense of this is where we are having omissions of some bigger names, because you can look at the teams here. There was the Pinnacle Cups, which teams had to qualify through to get to even play in ECS, and when you get through there, we're seeing like Avangard came through the Pinnacle Cup, I think, but that's a team that you want to see playing. But like, for example, Na'Vi, as far as I'm aware, aren't playing in ECS.
Nope.
The teams that are in there, they don't feel like, I think like FaZe, I'm not even sure if they're scheduled to play in week 3. Do we have that available, Mr. Producer Lucas?
They aren't. Avangard, Epsilon, Valiant, Vitality, Force, G2, Optic, Virtus Pro are the teams for week 3.
Okay, well, now that G2 is showing some form, that fills me with a bit of hope that it's not completely lost, right? So there is a chance to have some other names qualifying through. But as
also
the ECS...
good that Vitality made it through from the Pinnacle Cup, at least to this one.
Yeah, so having names like that out there to play is good. But there was a while there when it was looking very bleak. I think the up in form is a good sign with things that we've just noted there. But for the last few weeks, it becomes point based, right? So at this point now, you need to.
Oh, this is the last week. Wait, isn't it? We have
first
one more
3
week.
weeks.
With this week, we will still get 2 more teams. Well, in each division, 1 more team to go directly to the finals, and then the 4th and 5th week are the ones where the points matter the whole way. But the 4th and 5th will not have the winner go through directly to the finals. That will only be for those points. While the first 3 weeks are for both. Winner gets to the final, and you get some points on the board if you don't make it in those first 3 weeks. So, but like. We can use that as an argument, though, as well, because looking at this week in Europe, you have the highest ranked team in Vitality, who are number 10, and they are basically favored to make it through to the finals, right? Which has only 8 teams. So that already tells you that that the competitiveness of ECS hasn't been particularly great because of some of these big names completely missing from the circuit.
What is VP doing here? They ask in the chat.
Yeah, that's a great
question. They actually made it through from season 6. They didn't even have to go through. Nobody got relegated, basically, as far as I know.
They were like the relegated team that.
Yeah, they should have been relegated based on the previous rules, as far as I remember, because they were last in the previous season, in the 6th season. But with the new format coming through, they kept their spot, so that's why they get a chance to play.
I mean, ironically, it seems like the last 2 cups are going to be the most competitive ones. Which is kind of funny, but we'll see.
I mean, I'm guessing team-wise, maybe not.
I mean, like half of the good teams in Europe and North America didn't even play or they played in one, like Liquid did, and lost, and they'll have to like get the late train and try to get the points up.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. I think if you win 2, then
I'm trying to look at the scheduling of the fourth week and fifth week, just whether it clashes with things. Because obviously now it doesn't really. They could technically play it before they go to Sydney. I don't even know if there's anybody who can. Probably not though, because of how long you have to travel.
If you add a media day before,
yeah,
and
exactly,
then a travel
it's probably
day,
not possible.
That's a lot. Teams are going to probably try and get out there, like some teams at other events will arrive on media days and they'll do their media shit, and it's easy to acclimatize. But for Australia, I think, for those who aren't aware, it takes a fucking long time to get there.
Yeah. So basically, you're out for another week now. Previous week also clashed with Blast, was it? I think
it's Blast Sao Paulo.
Yeah, I think it was Blast Sao Paulo, which it clashed with the second week. It definitely clashed with one of the semi-big events at least. So some of the teams definitely couldn't make it. Week 4 is May 13th, May 16th. So another a pretty sizable break, 3 weeks. Break that we get in there. I don't think it actually clashes because there's Madrid just before, and Tour and Summit afterwards. So that should be one.
The fifth week clashes with Summit though. So
fifth week? Oh yeah, that's true.
Renegade's there, Answer's there, NRG's there.
Yeah.
Liquid's there. All of them that they.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Energy did go through.
Teams basically have to choose whether they want to play in this week or 1 week. And obviously they can't schedule this months in advance. They can only schedule this months in advance.
Did Liquid actually just give up of ECS now? So they're not in week 3. They're not in week 3, and they're not playing week 5 for Summit.
Yeah,
and week 4 doesn't give.
But they could potentially probably go through on points if they win week 4, because they were they second, or did they go out earlier?
They went out early.
They went out early, right? So maybe they don't have such a good chance. Maybe they'll play the fourth week to try, but probably are on the edge if they win it. I'm not sure entirely, but yeah.
Or are they going to do the classic go Summit and then play ECS from Summit?
Hey, it's possible.
Could happen. We've seen that happen before. But anyway, that's the problem that I'm talking about, right? They had to schedule this months in advance, basically, to figure out which weeks they're going to play because of these other LAN tournaments that they probably got invited to months in advance. Or not probably, I'm sure they got invited to these events months in advance to Blast or even Summit. I'm pretty sure those invites have been known for, or at least from what I heard, at least for several weeks. So they had to plan this exactly which weeks they were going to play in ECS. And for a lot of these teams, there was probably maybe 1 or 2, one of the first 3, and then potentially one of the last 2.
This is so bad from ECS. Face it, they need to hire the Jordi Rog guy who everyone's been spamming about in chat and has become a meme apparently. They need someone to kind of tighten the things up, because if Liquid is actually going to be, I don't know what's worse, for them to just skip out completely or to go to a LAN and then play the matches from the LAN after they play their own matches. That's also kind of bullshit. You want to get some hype for Liquid. They're playing the same day on LAN, so is your online game actually going to be that important? It's probably something maybe they didn't even think about, maybe put it in a clause or something hey, if you're playing in our qualifier cup, you can't play a LAN, because this is why we did the format that we did. We're going to make it short so you can really commit to it, and then you have more time to play your LANs. But no, I'm playing a LAN and online at the same time. I mean, we're just speculating at this point, but whatever it is, it's the best team in North America, probably. Not probably, but putting themselves in a pretty bad situation if they want to make the grand final, which is $500,000 or something. So,
yeah, but I mean, just look at that. At this point, right? We have 4 of the 8 teams confirmed now, and basically the best teams out of that, obviously Astralis from topping week 1, but then North topped week 2, Complexity topped week 1 because, well, they didn't, but they took that spot, right? After all, as far as I remember. And then Energy, again, a borderline top 10 team at this point. So that now you have two borderline top 10s and then one borderline top 20 team at a big event for $500,000 that features 8 teams, and 3 of them are basically out of the top 10. So that kind of tells you where ECS has gone. And it's obviously it's not great because, like I said, this is one of the biggest events we get, at least prize pool wise. After ESL Pro League, that's the 3rd biggest thing after majors. After ESL Pro League, ECS is the 3rd. So yeah, they've fallen really low. Just because, but that is kind of the fault of the format, or at least the scheduling.
See, this is the thing, like you touched on it, right? This all has to be done in advance. The way that they obviously want to use structure of the past. There's a reason that these TOs are doing this. It's because when they do give VP a wild card, all you cunts jump up and down and say it's bullshit unfair. But when we are missing the big teams and the big names and we go to the final and ECS, like I'm just once again speculating, let's say they just get a bunch of teams who have relatively small fan bases, then that fucks their viewership. That fucks everything, right? So there's a reason that, like, obviously we want some younger names to come through because that's exciting. We want the best teams to be there, but we also want the best teams, like, to actually compete. And that's why it kind of sucks that, you know, giving these formats a try, putting them out there, trying to facilitate what the needs are, the wants of the players. We want the games to feel like they mean more. We want the community to be more invested. We want everybody to watch. When I first started doing Pro League, I was looking at this the other day. I started being an analyst in the same season I played in, which is absurd. Like I played in season 3 and then I retired. I guess I didn't actually check if I played any games, but I think I did. I don't remember. A fucking lifetime ago now. But I also went to Germany and started doing Pro League Europe. That's for that same event. And back then, we're getting 80,000 viewers as like a minimum on an online broadcast. People were fucking frothing it. Now, gambling was at its peak then, and that's a part of why I quit, because people would message me every single day of my life telling me to kill myself, which is pretty reasonable. But that, like, back then, we would...
It's not, by the way, just for people who take it seriously.
Yeah, it's definitely not reasonable.
Fuck you, people.
If you ever get so angry at somebody that you don't know, and you type something with vitriol to them, you're a fucking idiot. Anyway, other than that, but
or get help.
Yeah,
gambling addiction. Too. Google it up, like figure out some stuff about your life and stuff like that.
We had 50K, I think, concurrent the other night for a Pro League match, which I was like, fuck, that's great. Obviously, it's good that we're not exclusively on Facebook anymore. ECS, I think I was having a look at their numbers. They've had quite a good concurrent viewership. And I think that's the way that their excitement curve works. So from all those things, from a viewership perspective, I think that right now Pro League and ECS are probably doing better with the format changes, but it's just that big issue of the lacking of these teams. We move on from this topic?
I think we should.
All right, we're going to move now to the Master
Actually,
Battle.
can we go back?
Group
Can we go
C.
back now, please? Or let's skip forward. I don't. Yeah.
We've moved forward to the segment where Striker unfortunately loses. Now, I think that eating one of the Swedish fish, not the delicious ones, the sugary ones. I'm talking about the disgusting thing that those fucking.
What did I Surströmming? What did I say about things that made me gag?
I know, but it's just one. Just
it's
one of them.
It's still on stream.
There's a dick joke in there, but I'm not gonna go there.
Well, you just did. So
can we think of anything? Can we think of anything better? But this is a thing that people actually eat. We're not giving you something that people don't actually eat.
But only like really, I don't know what to call those people, but those are not normal people. It's not like everybody in Sweden eats this. It's not like everybody in Sweden likes this.
He just called 30% of Sweden not normal people, so I'm not sure. Like
30%.
I think you should just accept the fish and like that's it.
I just don't want to do it live, right? I'm fine with being pre-recorded and potentially like getting a chance to cut it. I just don't want to do it.
All right, let's do this. What's the next event you're at?
last LA, a long time.
Okay, so I know that's still some time from now, but that's going to make it even more sweet when it happens.
By then I will lose another time, by the way.
Yeah, so we can do
then you can do two at the same time.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we will have whoever will be accompanying you on that event will be filming you eating this, and we'll get fucking Martin to sort out how he's going to get you the disgusting fish. But we'll get that your way, and that's unfortunately for you, because as we can see here on the screen, for those of you who aren't aware, I need to do this call out. GG.bet, they sponsor the show, and we do a segment every week where Striker and Prof go toe-to-toe in the prowess of blindly guessing who they think is going to come out on top of Counter-Strike matches, and once again, Prof's actually come through here. So we don't
actually
need to...
positive as well. Earned €60 or like 7 weeks, 6 weeks.
With that last second clutch, fuck you.
Yeah. Thank you, Entity bootcamping in Serbia and losing to
exactly.
to
This is like, by the way, I lost mine on G2. No.
G2 Fnatic.
Oh, G2 Fnatic. That's the one. Yeah, G2 definitely fucking surprised me. And like, fair play, they actually topped the group. They actually beat everybody else. So it's not like one upset that fucked me. They actually played well across the entire group. So hard to be mad at anything but myself and just not seeing that coming.
Honestly, if I saw that match, I'd probably bet on it on Fnatic as well. So luckily I didn't.
Yeah. And I caught really good odds. Like they swapped basically odds. They were like 2.0 for Fnatic at some point. And then when I checked like a couple of days later, it was 1.6 for Fnatic and then 2.10 on G2. So I just caught so good odds that it was hard to skip on. Obviously, lose that one. Lose the entire... It's like the entire way I'm just ahead because I've been losing less, and then last minute clutch from Prof comes in. Like this is the equivalent of being 15-14, you know, being up 3v1 and then you lose that one, that clutch to that guy and going into overtime and then losing the overtime, losing the series on top of it. It's the grand final of the major, and I'm really sad.
You are Kerrigan.
I have a proposition here.
Let's go.
So, how many fish usually come in one of those things, Lucas? 10? 10. Let's just go with a number here. Let's do this. Prof, I don't know, you obviously both you to agree to this situation. But what we're going to do is Prof is merely, when Prof loses, he will take up the same forfeits that Striker is going to have to do, right? So Prof will have to do the chilies.
We were talking about that actually, yeah.
Yeah. But here's what I'm thinking, Prof. Are you confident enough that, and Striker, you obviously have to agree to this, go double or nothing right now. If Striker can beat you in the next week, so we'll do another, how many did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We did 7? Is that 7? 6?
Yeah, 7, yeah.
So we'll do another 7 weeks, or another 7 shows worth of these. If Striker beats you, you have to start with the chili challenge. But if you win, because we're pushing his off until LA, if you win again, he has to eat 5 of the fish, as opposed to just 1.
Why would I agree to this, by the way?
Because you can get off with not having to eat any of the fish.
Oh, so I actually skip on it if I win the next one, or what?
Yeah.
You have
to eat 5.
Let's do it. I'm up for it. This makes sense. Striker,
this
look,
is a hard. This is a hard.
You have a way out.
This is a really. That's the thing. Like, that's the way out that you really don't want to get, because like the other side of the coin is you get fucked five more times. Like,
but look, you can.
This is not a place I want to be in right now. This is not a decision I want to take lightly. Fuck.
So you got to decide now before we bring the slips up for the next one.
Can I like first smell it or something, like
no?
Figure out what
you got to
like.
make the decision right now before we bring up the slips for the next week. You got to decide. Are you feeling confident that you can take him?
The option is either I just eat 1, or I potentially eat none, or I eat 5.
Yes. 1, none, or 5.
Oh, fuck it. I'm one for a challenge. Fuck it. Let's go.
All right.
I agree.
Okay.
Let's go.
Well, let's bring them up. Let's start with profs for this new week. This new little challenge we've got going here. Let's load that one up if we can, Mr. Producer Man. Now.
We started 500, by the way, again, and then whoever ends up on top, like whatever, 6 weeks from now,
let
have
me
to
open
do another
this.
forfeit. Whatever Sponge just said, we need to do.
Let me open this on my side just because it's kind of easier to see. So yeah, I started with that. I went with a classic online game just to spice it up. I went for Epsilon against Super Yimi, aka SJ now for short, making it cool for the kids.
You're gonna laugh when you see mine.
Epsilon did a bad Copenhagen Games and they lost online yesterday in this Vulcan Bet online thing, but now they have a day to just recover, get back into shape. And I think they should beat SJ for like 1.4 odds. That's decent, even though it's best of 1. Maybe I lose, but maybe I win. Who knows? That's betting.
Maybe I lose, maybe I win. That's kind of how it works. Yeah.
That's how it goes. There is no third option unless if you go on GG Bet and do a system, and then you can maybe win like 4 out of 5 and still win some money. But that's too complicated for me.
Yeah,
so
I don't want to get into that either. I was thinking about that last time.
Then I got to Astralis Games, Astralis X3D Max and Hellraisers. I went for 2 O's on both. 1.30 ratings, which is odds, I mean, which is kind of ridiculous to go 2-0, but this is strawless. And they like, my kind of thinking is they had a bad last event. They had a lot of time, so they're gonna be like mega hardcore, grinding, nerding, demo watching, and everything, and then they just destroy everyone. So I went for that, and then I went for big to beat X3D Max, and this is the one I'm the most scared of, actually, just because big are not really that convincing recently, but still, it's like 1.45, so whatever. And I put in the max bet, so it's 123 euros for 400.
Here's a question for you, though.
Jesus.
All right. Prof, I want you to put both hands in view of the screen right now, of the camera, just so that I can make sure you don't cheat here.
Okay.
I want to test your knowledge. Can you name me all 5 members of X3D Max?
Oh, this is a hard one.
I'm gonna open
this is a hard one. It's David P. Just give me a second. Did I mix them up with the other?
No, that's
French
right.
team?
David P's right. You're right.
David P. Maka Haji. Fuck. Give me a second. Oh, it's not Toino.
I can give you the letters that their names start with if you want.
Okay.
So one of them starts with an L.
Fuck, people are cheating, and it's Logan. Someone is cheating in the chat, so I need the next one. Okay.
And it starts with a J, the last one.
Jinx.
There you go. We got there in the end.
I watched their demo like a few days ago.
I watched their VP game on Nuke. Because when I wake up, I just turn Counter-Strike on because I'm mentally ill. And I'm just sitting there watching this game against VP on Nuke just go to overtime, and I'm like, what has my life become? Like, what am I doing right now to myself? But yeah, they play in Pro League soon. So anyway, that's what you've got, and you going for it.
That's a fucking
could be a massive win, yeah.
For an online game that's on best of 1 between 2 tier 2 teams, like, this is exactly the kind of slip Prof will win, because he just shouldn't, because he should be punished right here for that kind of bet, and he won't. I just fully expect to go down, but if he does, I'll also win, even though not even close, because he literally has 3 of the same matches that I did. I only did 3. I did something like $50. I did literally the same as you with Astralis, going 2-0, and big to beat X3D Max at exactly the same odds as well. I only put in 50 or $60. I don't remember right now. $50 I think I put in, which is, there we go. So like 130-ish. Kind of went fairly safe because like I actually want to win something.
You're gonna have to play a little bit more aggressive next week if he manages to take.
He's not gonna win it. I don't believe what I just said about Prof Slip and him obviously winning this, because he's not gonna win it. I'm gonna go ahead, and he's just gonna keep going down because of these stupid max bets. I actually finally get some fucking justice where Prof doesn't win. Prof doesn't win these fucking ridiculous online match bets, and I finally prevail, and I don't want it. I'm not gonna have to eat the stir-strong fish.
Okay,
thank you very much.
So Prof is currently doubled or nothing down here. If Striker loses this time round, Striker has to eat 5 of the fish. Otherwise, Prof just has to eat the fucking chilies. And then we need to add something next. We need a next one for next time. So if you guys have any suggestions, tweet them at us. Give us some suggestions. Don't do anything fucking stupid. We're not out here trying to hurt ourselves. None of this ridiculous stuff. Keep your fucking heads above, I don't know, out of the gutter, you cunts. Anyway, moving forward. EPL Group D. Now, what I want to do here before we talk about Group D is talk about relegation. Set the text in the bar. There we go. And I want to talk about the system that was announced for relegation for Pro League. So I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I want somebody to correct me if I'm wrong here. All of the teams who come last in Pro League will play in a group among each other. So it's going to be 4 teams that are going to play in a group among each other. The team that comes last in that group will be automatically relegated down to Mountain Dew League. The team who comes first in the next season of Mountain Dew League will go straight up into promotion and make their way into the Pro League. Teams 2 and 3 from that group we were speaking about before, of all of the fourth place teams, will play off again against teams 2 and 3 from that respective season of Mountain Dew League. The 2 teams that prevail there will go back up into Pro League. That's how the relegation system works. And first of all, any of you fucks who think that there should be automatic relegation, I know we have automatic relegation here, which Actually, we don't have automatic relegation, but we have automatic promotion.
We kind of do, I guess, but not.
It is
not
kind
automatic.
of, yeah. There is another phase to go through, but I personally, this is how I look at it. Now you're going to say, oh, but Ents is better than X-Space Soldiers, and you're right, they are. But I don't think just because if we did this every season and we had the 16 best teams in Pro League and they were getting relegated straight away, didn't get a chance to play off against, I don't know, fucking let's just say I need to pick a team name that's outside of that. Let's say Fours were the first team in ESEA Mountain Dew League, and they went straight up. But the team that got relegated was fucking Heroic. If I put Heroic and Fours together in a server, I think that's a pretty close affair. I'm not saying black and white which team's better. So I hate the fact that there's automatic promotion and relegation, and I'm going to say that comes from whatever agreement that ESL have with the ESEA, because ESEA probably like we want to get like our best team into your league to show that as like a path. But yeah, look, the format, I like it. I do like it. I think that I was thinking of something with more teams playing against each other than this, but I kind of like the multi-tiered aspect to it, and I think it works out really well for Wendigo here. Or actually, NIP have come last as well. So for those two teams, they have an opportunity to stay in the Pro League by just winning against some other moderate teams, and then they get a second chance again. So there's multiple chances for teams to progress and multiple chances for teams to get eliminated, and I don't mind it. I think it's an okay format. It's different. I wouldn't have thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a glaring fault with it either. Like, sure, you probably would have liked to have the opportunity for like all of the teams to be able to stay, like you say. But I mean, this is probably the second best thing we get, because you were talking about this last time, so I'm just going to repeat the same argument. Obviously, like having topped the MDL group doesn't necessarily automatically mean that you're better than the last team from Pro League. That just doesn't really work that way. So I would have liked for that not to be the case completely. But yeah, I can get how this kind of makes MDL a little bit more exciting. That winning it actually gives you a spot in the Pro League. So there's a bit, like not a bit more. It's massively more involved in that final. Whoever gets to that. So I kind of like that part of it. That just like for these tier 2 teams, for whoever's in the Pro League has that certainty that if they win, they go through and they don't have to care about like more relegation or anything. But yeah, it would have been better if like everybody just played against everybody, and we decided the teams that way.
The one thing that I find curious, if this post from ESL is correct, is that this group with 4 teams, that when you go, like the 4 teams that finish last, go into the group in Europe or in NA, it doesn't matter. It's a double elimination group, so it's not a round robin group, even though it's the same. Like one team goes directly back into the Pro League, the last one gets relegated, so it functions the same way as the groups we have in the group stage.
Yeah,
but it's not robin, it's GSL. It's like double elimination, which is the GSL essentially.
Yeah.
So like why do that? Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like if you think this is like it's kind of makes it, I don't know, awkward that they have different group, like
maybe it's
rules.
Also because they don't really care. In this case, they don't care who finishes second or third, because that's the part of the double elimination that they won't have to. Wait, is it full double elimination or just GSL?
It'd be GSL, right?
It says double elimination group. I think that is GSL.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be like a full double elimination bracket where you have like the whatever upper final and then grand final, right? So I'm just saying that if it was actual double elimination, then your argument it doesn't really matter.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's GSL, then like they don't even have to play out the decider basically, which is like between second and third place. Doesn't really matter. That doesn't really change. Well, actually, it changes like seeding, who you play up against in the first round. I'm guessing against like the MDL groups or MDL teams. I guess that kind of matters. But yeah, that's probably their thinking. I would imagine that they only care about the first place and the last place, which gets complete. Is that right?
Yeah, because second and third. Second and third
going up against second and third from MDL. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So first one goes directly to Pro League. Last one gets eliminated completely. Yeah. That's the right part. At least in America, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the
LA group. Yeah.
Yeah, the Latin America group.
They only have 3 last place teams technically in North America, so they have to work around it. Nobody's eliminated in the first in the first pre-relegation, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with all of the things, but essentially MDL teams have a bit of a easier way in NA than they have in just like one slot more.
Yeah.
But it's essentially kind of the same thing, so that's it.
Okay, so now that we've covered that, have we got anything else?
No, I just wanted to. I think it's like overall a decent format, and thankfully they finally announced it.
Yeah, I think
that's the important part. I wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't great that they didn't announce it while teams were already in the relegation, in some form of relegation. It just would have been better for them to announce it at the start of the season or at the end of the last one, instead of halfway through it. Just doesn't really make sense. But yeah, good thing that they did.
All right, so the next part of this is going to be talking about which team is going to come last in this group, because if Astralis don't 2-0 every single team in this group, I am probably going to have a tantrum. Look, there's the other teams in this group are so far below Astralis that they should not be conceding anything. I'm not saying that they should be winning every game 16-0. I think that there's always opportunities with the way that Astralis play Counter-Strike that they can concede a decent amount of rounds. That's just what happens when you play fundamental CS. There's certain rounds that you are going to lose. But I think that all in all, we should be seeing this EPO group, Astralis at the top, and then it's just a battle for second and third, which should be big in Hellraisers. 3D Max should be coming last here. No other way about it.
Well, it depends on how Hellraisers will be looking with this new lineup with Lower, right? Because we haven't really seen too much of them so far. So that's also kind of a question mark going into this. That's Hellraisers with their LAN debut with this team that doesn't even exist for that long in this particular lineup after Hobbit left or was benched or whatever the actual status is. So that's one question mark. I still don't see them being worse than X3D Max, like you say. I think that's the obvious favorite to place last, if you want to say it that way, while Astralis are the polar opposite of them. So yeah, if everything goes the way we think, this Group D is actually not interesting at all, because yeah, Big Hellraisers will just end up second and third, whichever order they will end up in doesn't even matter. I will be glad to kind of watch Big and see what they've done, how they've progressed, and also Hellraisers because of the LAN debut, how Oscar is going to do, if that motivation is going to go up now that he's in a different team, if that's going to work, how Hellraisers are even going to play with Lowell, because that's also a question mark for me. So like team wise, I'm pretty glad. I'm definitely going to be interested in the group and watching it. Results wise, it's probably not going to be that interesting, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance for both of Big and Hellraisers to actually lose to X3D Max, just because like Hellraisers especially, like we didn't really see them play anything. This lineup has almost nothing to do with the old lineup, so I'm just scrapping all of what we saw with Voxic, Isa, Dead Fox, Hobbit. That does not exist in my mind. This is a completely new team, and let's see what they do. They did play that We Play thing, the CIS part, which wasn't even featured in HLTV. I think they made it to the LAN, but that's not something like to write home about
they
anyway.
did. Yeah.
So like whatever, it can happen. Like X3D Max, the legendary David P team, number 44 in the world, they did beat Virtus Pro in an overtime game, so obviously a very dangerous side. Like I don't know, I think it can happen. I'm just like not sold on them at all. And Big as well, they had a lot of issues when we saw them like the last couple of times. So even though it's best of three, they are the favorites. I did bet on Big in the slip, but it can happen. I'm just saying it's not 100% clear cut in my book.
I just hope that Big actually moves somewhere with the playstyle thing, because out there they've been facing some pretty big issues, and hopefully they've actually found a way to resolve them, because Xantares wasn't really fitting in. Tapson with the op was still kind of wondering about how much to take in and stuff like that. So I just hope that they've actually fell on something that makes sense, because from the major to Shanghai, there wasn't really a big change. So I'm just hoping for that in terms of Big.
Just to back that up with some stats right now, this Big roster with the addition of Xantares have played 38 maps, and they've only won 17 of those with 21 maps lost. So not looking good for them at all, really. Just for those people playing at home, Prof, you mentioned matches in tournaments that HLTV.org aren't covering anymore, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. HLTV.org aren't covering tournaments which are round robin and online leagues anymore. If I'm like,
Yeah.
So if you're running like one of these like loot bet cups or something along those lines, and it's an online round robin league scenario, you won't be covered on HLTV.org. But if people wanted to find that information, I know you don't want to direct them to competitors. Where would you go to find that information, Prof?
I mean, there you go to the Twitter of the teams,
and that's it. You just go straight to the team.
They probably tweet about it. That's how I figured out about the We Play thing, or you follow the organizer. They tweet about the stuff. There are other sites that cover stuff, but like you can find it on Wikipedia, but how can you actually find it? Like it's not a site really to see what's happening at the moment. You can go and it's more made for like to find a specific thing. I mean, there are like live scores and stuff like that, but it's not their like first priority. Of course, it doesn't make sense. So those are the things, and I know like the matches are on some betting sites, so if you can go through betting sites as well, they have streams and stuff, so that's also an option. But it's a very small number of tournaments and group stages that are not covered so far. It's like this We Play thing is the only thing that's kind of relevant that I saw, and there's also like the Winners League that is on betting sites, but not. It's like a lot of teams and a round robin, like tier 4 or 5 teams. So
is that where you got the Epsilon thing or not? Or am I just
no? That's the Vulcan bet. That's on HLTV.
Okay.
That's a GSL group stage.
Right. So most of the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying that most of the things are GSL or Swiss now. If it's a big group, then they just use Swiss.
Alrighty, so with this one here, we've outlined this group should be pretty cut and dry with the potential for the upset there for 3D Max. I guess it's a situation though where everybody besides Australis, and Australis should cruise through this, have everything to play for. 3D Max obviously want to make a good show so that they can try and get picked up by an organization.
They definitely want to not be last, just so that they keep their spot, basically, because they would not have a good outlook in the pre-relegation or the relegation afterwards. So that's definitely a big goal for them to at least get one win and hope that it doesn't end up in that 1-2 situation in that tie. So they just really want to take down one of Hellraisers and big. So that there's a lot to play for them, even though they probably don't have a big chance in that second group stage if they get there.
It is kind of funny that you could actually just stick in ESL Pro League with one best of 3 win. That's all you need to be in the next season. Like if you win against the correct opponent, let's say,
let's say
they beat Hellraisers and then Big beat Hellraisers and then everything like ends up as expected. That's enough for them to not get relegated and to have another season of Pro League. But yeah.
Are we still live? Okay, but Twitch is having some problems. All right, well, we can move away from this because I think we've maybe done enough of the ESL stuff. Do we want to talk about the interview with Jordy, the VP of Commercial Development and Partnerships at Refresh Entertainment?
Yeah, I love the part where he says like 5 times that it's not exclusive. They only have 5 teams coming on like 5 events, and then there's one team that is not forced to come to event, and therefore it's not exclusive and everything is fine. But just the way that was framed over and over time, it's like there are 7 partner teams and 5 of them play every tournament, and he said that like 7 times. That was kind of interesting to me, the way he kind of wanted it to put it into light that it's all okay. It's all okay, guys. I mean, it is. You can do whatever you want, but obviously teams are prioritizing this event over ECS, over I don't know, Star Series that's $500,000 and other stuff like that, which there has to be more to it than just this is a decent event, because players don't think of this as the biggest event. When they win it, okay, it's okay, but you know it doesn't carry that much weight.
You can just hear from interviews, especially like if it's weeks later or something and you talk about what happened there. They're like, oh, we lost a couple of best of ones. Yeah, whatever happened. We fucked up one best of one, didn't make it to the final. Blame it on the format, basically. So that kind of tells you what their thinking is about Blast and how serious they are while they're at it. I'm sure they're serious while they're at it. But in terms of the big picture, they probably don't take it as the most important events. They'll take like an ESL one over it because it's just a bigger, more prestigious thing to win, and obviously a bit more rough in a sense, because they have to play a lot more best of threes, or just a lot more maps in general. So yeah, that's the one part that I'm not in the big fan of when it comes to Blast, because a lot of the time, even the players kind of show that it's not the most prestigious thing to be participating in.
I mean, there's also a part where it says like, oh, it's only seven tournaments, so that's only 7 weeks. Which then he later even Benja, or one of our writers did a short like Twitter thing about it. He did it like to their stream, but at the same time, this gentleman from Refresh, he says, oh, we don't want our teams to go to another event like a week before, or like go to another event a week later, because then they're gonna be burned out and all of that stuff. But essentially, like, you can't really think about it as just 1 week, or just like, this is only a 4-day event, because you really have to prioritize things before and after that event, and then small overlaps like ECS had also take you out of that. So it's not that simple. It's not really only 7 weeks of the year. It's definitely more than that, but it's also not obvious. It's not that every tournament takes 3 weeks of a team. It's not that either, but it is somewhere in between, where there's a good portion of the year taken by these 7 events, and I think we can see that on the events that we had so far in the year. It just hasn't been that many big events.
That tweet from Benja, even if it was extreme, and I have to agree with that 100%. It was a little bit too aggressive, I would say, just like pointing it out as if it was fact. But it just does highlight what the philosophy is, right, of Refresh. They don't, like you say, they don't want teams to just jump back and forth. Well, jump into fight another event, or them being fresh off an event at Blast. So like, if they got their philosophy, if that was right, and I'm not sure if that they have it contractually, if the teams are contractually obliged not to attend any events around it, because we can't really know, but we assume that's not the case. I can't remember a case where that happened anyway, where somebody went to an event right after Blast. Just don't have the schedule in my head right now. But that's the thing, it just highlights the philosophy that Refresh has, that they, and the potential future with the Refresh events. So that's, again, coming back to that exclusivity thing, is definitely something that, even though they don't want to admit it to the public outright directly, it's definitely something that they're working towards.
All right, well, we're going to move on to talking about IEM Sydney here. This might be our only opportunity to do this before the event, because of all the travel to get down under for everybody, and all that's going to be going on very, very shortly. So we're going to just have a quick look at this one. Now, the groups are yet to be drawn. Now, for those who aren't aware, it's just going to go with the classic ESL format they've been running for the majority of their tournaments. It's the 16 teams split into 2 groups of 8. Then we're going to have 6 teams progress all the way to the playoff stage. We're going to have 2 teams go straight through the semifinals, and 4 teams will have playoff in quarterfinals. Actually, while we're talking about formats, I quite like that. As a format. Yeah. Because it means where you place actually in that group stage really matters to you in the tournament and your progression. So that's kind of cool. But we'll just list through the names here. So the big representatives that we have are FaZe, Liquid, MIBR, NIP are there, Renegades, Fnatic, NRG, and I'll throw Mouse Sports into that mix. So those guys right there are, I guess, the heavy hitters and the ones that we should all be looking to expect to get through, depending on how these groups get seeded. But then when you cut that off and you look at the lower teams, we have Vici, MVP, Big, Heroic, Chiefs, E-United, Greyhound, and Boot. Now, out of those teams, there's 2 that stand out as clear potential threats, would be Big and Heroic. And then I don't know who you'd start throwing in after that. Maybe Vici, if they continue the trajectory that they're currently on. They're not looking too bad, but I'm not putting a lot of stock in names like, E-United and MVP, Greyhound, etc.
Boots, yeah. There's quite a lot of teams that are actually kind of like pretty much confirmed out almost before the event starts, unless we get some like crazy around that. Was it Chiefs, or am I just tripping now?
Chiefs were at the first one, but
well, 2 years ago. That's the one I'm talking about. Nuke, right? Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Obviously, lineup completely different now, but yeah, that's about the scale of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Last year's IEM Sydney was the Greyhound beating SK, and then taking a map off FaZe.
And then Renegades
also,
making it pretty far as well.
Yeah, they went to the semi against Mousesports, right?
Yeah,
I
pretty
think that was
sure.
the thing.
Yep.
Or the quarterfinals.
That was close. It was a close quarterfinal as far as I remember. But yeah, just that kind of those kind of results. Obviously, Renegades at the time weren't really that underdoggy as like the likes of MVP or Chiefs or even potentially Greyhound. But even in this kind of set of teams, Greyhound actually don't look that bad as opposed to like United or Boot specifically. So they're not 100% set for that last place probably.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's quite a lot of teams that are not that exciting to watch, honestly. Even though MVP PK actually a team that I kind of like to watch, especially after they've made a couple of changes. They're a little bit different now. They don't have those two veterans that they used to with Soul and
they keep Zeph though. They did Solo and Glow. They kept
the Glow. Yeah, that's the other one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that was a team I kind of liked watching even before, and now that they've gotten a few Asia's came back and the team looks a little bit different. So it's in terms of Asia, it's a team that I kind of like to watch every now and again.
Yeah. Just like keeping an eye on like Australian CS, Greyhound haven't been looking that convincing. They've been losing some map series, but overall they still look like the leading team. So if anyone, it's them or Chiefs this year. They only have 2 slots for Oceania, but Greyhound are the team. Like if someone's gonna do something, then it's probably them. Chiefs not that exciting at the moment. But the thing is, I think how we can look at this tournament is that we have 6 teams going to the playoffs, and they're a bit more of the big names than that. So, like, who is going to make it? Like, I think like FaZe and Liquid are the big names. But then you have NRG, you have NIP, you have Renegades, Fnatic, Mousesports. Like those, let's do 7 teams. I think we can.
Mousesports is definitely one that I'm gonna. I think they're gonna be like a solid dark horse. And by dark horse, I mean they're still like among those teams that we probably would expect to at least have a shot at playoffs. But I think they're like the team that could just surprise us and just make a semis and a good appearance there. Out of all these teams that we're not entirely sure about, like NIP, Fnatic, or NRG, out of that group of teams, I feel like the Mousesports are definitely the most dark horsey in the sense that they I think have a very, very good chance to surprise.
They're exciting, right? Like that's the thing that is about the Mousesports team. I think that like we're throwing NIP into the mix here, and we're basing that off of the fact that they're a top 10 team in the world. But watching them play, and I said this on broadcast of the night, and this is not taking anything away from the team because I always consider them a threat. Like you could put them in a best of 3 against any of the other names of this tournament, and I would say they have a good chance at winning. But they're not an exciting team because they don't have any young prospects. It's just Rez, right? And Rez has now been playing consistently at this level for a decent period of time to no longer be considered like a new prospect anymore. He's one of the better Swedish players still. But when you look at the rest of the players on the team, everybody's just like a baseline. It's just like a baseline. Yep, we hit our baseline. If Forrest carries, cool. Our skill setting goes up here. If Get Right has a good game with some clutches, we go up here. But at no point do you ever see all 5 of the players in the server for these guys, just doing what they do and actually looking like a threatening or scary prospect. Yeah. They're always a danger, but they're never like, oh shit, like they can just fucking wipe people out.
Also, I'm looking at this entire event, just to go on a completely different note. You can come back, Prof, if you want to. Is Liquid actually going to win a tournament where they're favorite in?
Or just a premier tournament at all?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the only tournament they won was the Malta event.
Summit last year as well.
And Summit, okay. Those are like small invitational 8-team events. Like they have never won a 16-team 250+K event. And they're thinking about it constantly as well. Like especially especially after they lose a final like they did in Miami, but. They're even joking about it themselves. Like, another second place. Let's go. Yeah.
Naf, shout out to him.
Tweet.
Yeah. So they're obviously, it's definitely in their heads, and that's something that we're going to talk about it over.
There's also the Iva Power Masters people in chat are reminding us, but I completely wiped that out of my brain.
Yeah, because that's because of what happened afterwards, right? That Iva Power Masters, I guess we all were a little bit like overexcited about Liquid. They were obviously still good. They still did reasonably well at the major. They still did well in Miami, but obviously haven't been like the consistent force competing for titles because they got obliterated in Miami, didn't really have a chance to win the major either. So that's the thing. But that's something that we're gonna keep talking about with Liquid until they fucking break through this, because it's just the psychological aspect is just something that's been sticking with them through for a long time.
I'm backing them in. I'm going in.
No,
Team Liquid
you're not
are winning
going
Sydney.
again.
Team Liquid are winning IEM Sydney 2019. They're only going to drop 2 maps the entire tournament. Twist is going to get the MVP. They're going to bask in the glory of a delicious VB, have themselves a steak pie, and fucking get some Vegemite on that cunt. Because Liquid are here. They're going to win it. Lock it in.
If there's one part they're surely not going to do, is the Vegemite part. That's for sure. I can put money down right now on that one.
It's not as bad as everyone makes it.
Nah, it's not as bad. But
I don't even know what it tastes like, man. Just to say. Never even seen it before.
That could be the next forfeit. Anyway, what do you
I don't think that's very exciting, is it? I know what it is. It's just like
I need Renegades not to make the grand final so I can have them in the caches.
yeah, we've heard that before.
Let's take Liquid, of course.
What are we doing?
Top six.
Top
playoffs.
6. Okay, sorry.
Liquid, FaZe, NRG, Mouseboards. That's 4.
Wait, hold up. We can maybe work this out. Let's do this. Let's do a little experiment.
Okay.
We can come up with the seedings, right? We can come up with the seedings right now. We can also use ESLs because I assume that they're going to use their seedings. So
or are they going to seed each other for this?
We haven't heard it, so I don't think...
They probably are, because they did it last time for Chicago. That was their last event that they did for the major, so I don't...
Okay,
might be.
We'll seed it. And pretend we're them. Okay, so Liquid's number 1. Without a doubt, Liquid's number 1. Will they put FaZe number 2?
I mean, who would you put above them? You wouldn't
people
put
might
MIBR.
argue Renegades, right?
Oh, okay. I guess I don't think that's going to be the consensus, though. Like, it's not going to be the consensus among these teams, basically. Like, I could see like general public maybe potentially thinking this way, but even not even then. The teams are just going to put FaZe mostly second.
Renegades have to be third then. Like Renegades,
unless
you
the teams
Fnatic
are fucking
third.
crazy and they go like MIBR third because of the name.
You'd only put Fnatic ahead of Renegades here. But
What
do
we think about them putting Mousesports really high, though? What do we think about them like putting maybe Mousesports as 5th or something fairly relatively crazy?
There's no way they can justify that.
Are you sure?
Well, the thing is, because you have to think about how teams like Vici, Chiefs, MVP,
but
etc. are going to see.
The teams are clearly based on the major. The teams are clearly not really thinking this way too much. They're just going to think, oh, Mousesports did really, really well in Pro League. They're probably really high. It's a team led by Kerrigan. It's got some really good prospects.
But
they're
could you
doing
put
really
them?
Well.
But I don't think you could like justify to yourself. You could put them ahead of like NRG or MIBR or anything like that. That would be like such a stretch.
Are you sure about MIBR? Like,
Look,
sure. Like,
they just
I don't think they will.
Astralis, bro. 16-2 on Overpass. I don't know if you watched that game.
You know what they did afterwards, though?
Lost to Luminosity.
Losing to Luminosity, yeah. Destroyed the Cloud9, by the way. This just speaks to MIBR and them being inconsistent as fuck.
Also speaks to Cloud9.
And also speaks to Cloud9, yeah.
Losing 14-1.
That entire group was just such a fucking mess, man. Like,
did you see that Cloud9 had another one of those, like, how do you lose these rounds against Fur?
Who?
Against Fur on Overpass A side. It was like he was planting in a smoke with
30
HP.
I saw that.
And they, I don't know.
Did you see the 1v3 that Na'Vi lost to fucking Twist on Overpass? It was the stupidest thing I've ever, like, I didn't even understand it. I was like, why? And it was actually Simple's fault. I was like, why is this happening?
I mean, you every now and again, like, however Simple is good, like, he obviously makes mistakes. He makes a lot, basically, like, he makes a lot of what you would perceive as mistakes and then just comes back from it, like, in a simple way. But then, obviously, every now and again, it doesn't really work out. He oversteps a line, gets killed for no reason, well, with no refrag. So it just happens with Simple quite a lot, that he puts himself in those situations. It just, he doesn't really come out
normally he wins
on the losing side of those situations. That's basically how Simple works. He puts himself in a lot of dangerous situations, but he somehow wins the majority of them, and that's why he's the best player in the world. But the polar opposite of that is when he loses those, that looks pretty bad.
Okay, so where are we with this seeding? Where are we going to land on this? Liquid at number 1, FaZe number 2.
Yep. I
Number
do.
three?
Okay, I'll agree with Renegade's number 3. I think.
I'm pulling up a Google Sheet so we can kind of track it and put it on
Oh
stream.
yeah, okay.
Hopefully,
Yeah, we can.
I don't see
we
the
can-
stream
So-
anymore, so Lucas will have to tell me if
Cool.
we have it on or not.
What do we got? Fnatic?
Fnatic are probably even like ranking wise are probably the highest afterwards. Number
Yeah.
9, is that true? I'm just looking through the ranking as well. No, and IP are actually right ahead. Well, MIB are 6.
It might be actually number
are
6.
6,
so.
but I don't think people put them there. I feel like the Renegades will. Fuck, man. This is the thing. Like the teams are not thinking. The
I
way
think
we do.
MIBR is gonna have.
I
like,
feel like the thing.
ahead,
Yeah,
Again, ahead of Fnatic for sure.
they're gonna be like 4. MIB are 4, I would say. Yeah. Fnatic and IP are gonna be 5th, 6th most likely. Anyway, I would imagine. I'm not sure if the teams would put one above the other. Probably Fnatic above NIP, but I don't know about the teams thinking there. But I would say Fnatic then and then NIP, which is slightly out from our ranking, which would have been the other way around. But they're like 30 points away from each other.
Then NRG?
NRG, yeah, I don't see. I feel like this is the place where Moussports could potentially like sneak
I don't
in.
think.
I think it would be unfair, but I think it could happen.
No, I mean now, who would you put above Mousesports? Like
I wouldn't. I would put
equivocally.
Mousesports next. I'd definitely put Mousesports
like after
next.
Energy, right? I would have put them there too. I feel like Mousesports could sneak in like maybe a spot or two higher just because of how I think the teams will look at them. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on this. But yeah, I would reasonably. I think this is the place to put them. I'm pretty sure the ranking works out fairly similar to this as well. Big are slightly ahead of them. But considering how they've looked, I feel like Big will probably be now, maybe. Like Big and Heroic, we're probably going to be somewhere
I'd put
around
Heroic
now.
ahead of Big.
Yeah,
I'd go
I
like
would
Mouse
too.
Sports, Heroic, Big.
I'd go for that as well.
Yeah.
And then probably Vici. I'd put Vici above Greyhound.
Who else do we have? This is like Vici. This is all the teams that we're really not
I think
very
it's
sure about.
Vici, Greyhound,
Vici are first
United,
Chiefs.
probably.
out of that group is Vici first for sure.
Oh wait,
I,
yeah, we have.
I think United won't get a lot just because they don't play anything like internationally. And they played a couple of events, but then they changed like half of their roster anyway.
Wait, who are we?
I think it's
Vici,
Vici
MVP?
and Greyhound based on the major, just based on that. But
Okay.
you could argue for maybe United being ahead of them.
Well, I think okay. So let's just say that United come in. I reckon after Greyhound. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't think that's where they'll end up. But let's, if we're being fair, let's put them there. And then I think MVP, then Chiefs, and then Boot.
Yeah.
Wood are last for sure, I think.
Yeah, they're a total mess right now. Like DSN was playing games for them and top
carrying.
dragging.
Yeah.
It's like what the is going on? I don't know.
Legend.
So MVP, Chiefs, and Boot.
Okay, so the cool thing that we can do now is we can just make a 16-team double elimination bracket and then split that cunt right down the middle, and that's how it should work out, right?
Well, not right down the middle because only 6 teams make it through, but
Oh yeah, but what I mean is we can work out who's
can
going
make
to be
the
on what
groups.
side.
oh,
yeah.
you mean the groups?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can make the groups from this, and then we can work out based off of our seeding who we think the top 6 teams are going to be moving forward.
Does it go just like 1, 2, like first team goes in one group?
116, then 215 in another, then 314 in the first, then 413 in the other.
Yes,
blah
yes,
blah blah
yes.
blah blah.
So constantly interchange like that, I
Yeah,
guess. And
just
even
like-
if we're wrong a little bit, this is still a fun little experiment that we're
Yeah,
running.
sure. It's a nice way to show people how in what kind of placing we expect these teams to be.
Just to note for the people who are curious, someone asked the question, why isn't Navi or Ents there? Navi, I believe, would have turned down
I'm sure they got
invitation.
100%.
And Australis also turned down the invitation. Ents, previously, before the major, weren't considered to be a team to get invited. Obviously, if we were doing this now, they would be invited, but they're not. So this is just the way that it works.
Yeah, I
Fortunately-
imagine Ents would have probably not gotten an invite, given this was probably sent out quite a long time before the major. So, yeah, could see that happening for sure.
Let's
All right,
see.
how are we looking, Prof?
I'm getting lost in the whole thing.
All right, let me give it a crack.
Let
I
me.
think you're
This should be it on this side, and then F, Matic, NRG.
Because it might actually be like a little bit different where this is the way I would do it if I was like Fnatic would be on the same side of the bracket as Liquid, and our third highest seeded team would be Renegades, would be on the same side as FaZe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it goes like 1 in Group A and then 2 and 3 in Group B, or it goes like 1, or like does it go like snake-like or just alternating?
Well, you should. Basically, what you should be aiming for is like one. Wait,
I got it. Hold up. I'll have it in a second. Wait, 1 minute. You guys keep talking.
I'm just trying to work out like the numbers because like obviously they're not.
You can
like
edit
numbered
my stuff
according to each other.
It's open for editing.
I'm just like trying to
spreadsheets linked. So
fit teams to a number.
Someone talk. Someone has to keep the air no longer dead. I can do it. I'll talk. You can't work out the fucking bracket, all right? I'll give you guys the easy job. I'll do the one where I talk. You guys sort out that bracket situation.
Striker.
So yeah, I'll do it. It's just
going into Sydney. We obviously have that tournament followed up by Madrid.
Can you allow me to change this, please? Wait,
I'll do it. I'm giving a new. It's just a new link.
Cool.
I forgot. Here's a new link.
Because I would have changed it, but it's just I can't. Just try to add numbers to the teams just so I can easily dissect. What the fuck are you doing? Oh, there we go.
We only really need to work out who's on which side of the bracket, because the opening matches, they'll probably go a pretty clean-cut way. There's only... Usually when you're looking at the way tournaments are seeded, the teams seated within the top 4, considering the disparity we have right now, should have pretty clean victories, and then it starts to get messier in the middle. So obviously the first 8 teams, the top 4, the bottom 4, that should be pretty clear cut, and then it's just from position 5 down to motherfucking 11 is where it starts to get real saucy and messy. So I think that I've gone with Liquid to take the whole thing, purely based off the fact that I think that now they don't have to go into a tournament just.
Oh, you're right. Liquid and the FaZe and Renegades should be together.
Yeah,
yeah. We fucked up the groups. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Definitely, because Liquid should be up against MIBR, 1 against 4, 2 against 3, right, and stuff like that. I'll fix it.
Fix it.
Oh fuck! I'm just gonna go Ghost and do the brackets instead of doing the groups, and then we can work out the groups.
We're not good at live stuff here at HLTV.org. Confirmed. We do have Lucas, who's broken the stream 4 times this evening. Okay, well, I'm just trying to think what other cool things will be happening at Sydney.
No day off in between the group stage and the playoffs.
Is that a cool thing?
That's always a cool thing at the events.
You don't like having that time off?
No, I enjoy having the time off. So that's sad that we don't have that anymore.
Okay.
That's always good.
I am really looking forward to just eating some Australian food.
How long has it been since you were there last?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what should I eat when I'm in Australia? What is the thing that is good?
We just have really fresh produce and really good quality meat because we grow everything ourselves and we don't import it. In terms of Australian food, we don't really have we're kind of just like the British.
What's the deal with kangaroo meat? Is that really...
People eat it. Yeah, people eat it.
Is it any good?
I wouldn't go out of my way to eat it, but people eat it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know. We just have really good quality food because we grow everything ourselves. So I love a good old... I asked the British people here, I was like, do you have any ketchup for your beef pie? I don't know if you guys know what a beef pie is, but they're like, no, we don't do that. I was like, what do you mean? So beef pie, I'd eat it. It's not really anything crazy exciting. It's not going to blow your socks off. Just a home comfort. I don't know. There's not a lot that's down there to really brag about. Just little bits and pieces. How we looking, Striker? We almost there?
Almost. I already have Group A.
I got some Five Guys I want to order.
I'm sorry, what do you got?
Got some Five Guys I want to order. So Group A, the teams in Group A, from our seeding, we've completely made this up. We don't know if this is accurate. Is Liquid, Boot, Heroic, Mouse, Fnatic, Greyhound, MIBR, and E United. So let's base it off of our groups here, who we think is going to come through this. I think that it is probably going to be Liquid, Mouse, and MIBR. That would be my 3 teams if that was that group.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have faith in MIBR?
Yes, I do. If they play against Fnatic, who mainly get through games with clutches, then I think that MIBR can take that one. And also, I don't think Fnatic's map pool is very impressive by any means.
No. I agree with that, but the problem is MIBR are inconsistent as fuck. And they will not have had much time to...
They have a week.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Didn't they...
Not very much.
I actually didn't read the tweet, or it was in Brazilian, but I think Taco said like that they're flying to. I don't know. I'm making this up, but I have a feeling that they're flying to Sydney early, which I hope is not the case.
Well, if they are, then they get even.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Could not be true. I think maybe it's just like the Google Translate thing.
Well, at least they could adjust a little bit faster, because like obviously with the travel they've been through, they probably need a little bit more time than normally they would to adjust to schedules and shit, because they've just been all over the place for fucking I don't know how long. So that's I'm not. The thing is, like with a week, I'm not totally against it, honestly, just because they will not have had like enough time to practice, like especially not against like decent teams in NA. So I feel like I would rather see them be fresh in Sydney rather than get like a couple of days more of practice, honestly.
Yeah, could be.
I would rather see them do that.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to reinvent the wheel anyway at this point, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, they don't have the time for it. I think they need, after Sydney they should have. Well, they have to come back for the second group stage. But after Sydney, they should have at least like 3 weeks out of the month or something, which should finally help them kind of sort things out, hopefully. But for now, I feel like we still put them in that like God knows what's going to happen group.
And then on the other side of things, we had our group B, the one that we made, has FaZe, NRG, Big, Chiefs, Vici, NIP, Renegades, and MVP. For that one, it would be FaZe, NRG, and Renegades in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which teams did you say?
FaZe, NRG, and Renegades would be my 3 teams, if that's the group.
I'm a little bit on the fence with NRG, because they haven't looked particularly convincing with Tarek. I don't think they've found a way to be as consistent as they used to be. So I could definitely see them lose to like an NIP in the deciding game or something, just because of what I just said, not very consistent, and NIP having that kind of like up and down nature where they can take down like top 10 teams on not even their best day, just on a good day in general. So that's definitely like 50-50 between those two. I'm not entirely sold on NRG. So maybe
I'd go for NRG surely there. Just like I've not been impressed by NIP.
I haven't been impressed by either team, honestly. But the problem with NIP is that they actually can take down like any of these teams, basically, even FaZe. Like they've shown, probably not Renegades at this point. I think that they wouldn't lose to Renegades just because of the play style. But unless Renegades just don't show up or something, I just don't see that happening. I could see them beat FaZe because FaZe have also been kind of inconsistent. Renegades have at least found a way to play, and they've stuck through it. And it obviously is successful for them in a consistent way. So that's why I would put Renegades above NIP, but not necessarily FaZe above NIP every time.
The only issue for Renegades is that they have been having these like visa issues.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Their practice has probably not been the greatest for the last month even, or maybe more, with have like 4 of the guys being in Europe, then they went back, then Gratisfaction wasn't with them, or Jakim then joined, but Gratisfaction, as far as I know, isn't in NA still. He just went back home or something until IM Sydney finishes, and then they'll be trying to figure that out when this event finishes. So I think that could be a kind of an issue for them, which could see them maybe not being the top 3 in this group. But at the same time, like the rest of the teams aren't that impressive in my like Big, Vici, MVP, and Chiefs. Like in the end, someone is probably gonna upset someone. Someone always upsets. Like there's always like a small team that does something
Vici and IP,
unexpected.
Didn't that happen before? Or am I just tripping? Did that not happen at some point?
Vici and IP. Vici Fnatic happened.
Oh, Vici. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's true.
So
that's my bad.
So
pick me an overall winner. I've gone with Liquid. I think Liquid will win the entire thing.
Overall winner.
Oh jeez, like it makes sense.
Problem is, I don't see FaZe like replicating that kind of form that they had.
Nah.
Fucking look, no, you're not gonna like me for this.
They played good though in Pro League.
Yeah, against who though? Yes. So picking the overall winner to finish that and end the show, I'm going with Fnatic.
Wow.
So I'm not going with Liquid because what Striker said, not going with FaZe just because Lightning doesn't strike twice.
Issues, yeah.
And then Renegades, not because of the whole practice situation. MIBR, definitely not. And then, yeah, has to be Fnatic.
Look, I'm going to pull a sponge here, and I'm going to, well, anti-sponge here, basically. I'm going to say Renegades and JKS to be the MVP because he was fucking amazing fuck. I forgot what it was.
Star Series
Star
Season
I was
7.
there. How did I forget?
Because it feels like a lifetime ago.
That's exactly it. In the CS world, it feels like it was months ago. But yeah, that's what I'm calling fuck it, because I'm not confident in any of these like first 6 teams to win the event. Basically, like I probably a logical one would be FaZe, just because of confidence probably going pretty high, and them just winning the last final against Liquid, and there's a pretty high potential for that final to happen again. But yeah, like Prof said, Lightning doesn't strike twice unless you're really unlucky or really lucky in this case. So I am gonna fucking go with the third team, go with Renegades.
Yeah.
Home crowd
so
and everything, you know.
Prof's gone Fnatic, I've gone Liquid, and Striker's gone Renegades. That's our preview for IEM Sydney. Normally we'd take questions, but none of you have asked a single good question this entire time. So go back. You've got a couple days to think about it. We should be bringing you a special on Friday where we do the draft for IEM Sydney once it becomes available for everybody. So we might get a social media post out, and what I want you guys to do is, because we had a couple of players featured on last time, we had Pimp here, we had Moses here. I'll talk to the social media people, but what I'm thinking is we'll get this tweet out into the stratosphere, and you guys tag players who aren't going to be at the motherfucking event in Sydney, and we'll see if we can get them on the show. Because we'll work out that. We'll see if we can get some guests on to do the draft. We can have up to 16 different individuals. We'll see what we work out. But Friday, we should be bringing you a draft special. And I'm still going to see if I can work on a prize. I've dropped the ball. I've been busy watching Pro League. We'll see if we can bring something like that. All in all, thank you again for tuning in. We've run a little bit over. We had a couple of technical difficulties this time around. Twitch servers not being nicely. Lucas not knowing how to use OBS correctly. We do have a few issues, but we should be back. We'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to HLTV Confirmed. And also go to anchor.fm/HLTV if you want to listen to audio-only episodes. And if you're one of those people who tweeted us asking for audio episodes and you don't actually do a little bit of research, fuck you. Good night.